So tell me about the streaming. How long have you been doing that?
On and off for like a year or so, give or take. It's kind of whack. What happens is me, my friend Lanny, David, whoever is kind of there, Lanny's brother John, my partner Alvin. It really depends on what we're playing and what we're doing.
Okay.
And then I'll ask them, I'm like, oh, do you care if I stream or not? And then they'll be like, yeah, do it. Fuck it. Why not? And I'm like, all right. So we'll play like Overwatch. We play Valorant. Played this game recently called Pico Park. And that was just chaotic. And we just have fun being fucking goofballs and streaming video games. So, and then I stream it to my Twitch, which is called Ultra Milks. Tried to go with Mega Milks. That was taken.
Ultra Milks. I like the name.
Yeah, it's a titty reference, but yeah, Mega Milks was taken, Super Milks was taken, Super
Ultra
Milks.
Oh my god.
Ultra Milks.
So you tried a few different ones before.
Tried a process of some. So I was like, I want to make a titty reference. So that's...
I like it. I support it. I think that's a good name.
I thought it was great. I'm like, that'll attract people, attract people's attention. So
people are gonna click, if nothing else, for just the name.
Just purely like, Ultra Milks. Cool.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, I forget on Twitch you can't link your OnlyFans. So when I made it, I was like, oh cool, this could attract things for OnlyFans at the time that I was making it. And then it ended up just like, I was like, oh yeah, you can't like promote sex work on Twitch because that'll get you banned. Yeah, that's not okay. So again, I learned that rather fast. I was like, well, I just made like a weirdly vague sexual name, and then it doesn't even matter. So I'm stuck with it. But
can you shout it out like on your stream? Like, hey, go check out. Oh, you can't reference anything.
I don't think you can reference anything on Twitch with any sex work related stuff. Like you can cuss on Twitch, but like you'll get banned if you show any skin if it's not in like an art context. I think.
God. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Twitch is actually pretty anal when it comes to their rules, and especially with like, okay, in my opinion, specifically with women's bodies, like you can't show cleavage or you can't show too much cleavage, but like some girls get away, or girl identifying get away with like, apparently there was this big hype where girls were in like blow up pools and then they're just like in bikinis.
While streaming?
Yeah, while streaming, and they're talking to people on a chat. And there's like, they're doing something, but they're in like a bikini in a blow up pool, and sometimes in their house, and just vibing out.
Wow.
It's so weird. The standards don't make any sense. But that's how it goes on Twitch, I suppose. I'd have no idea. So yeah, that's a thing.
That's cool. And you like it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like fun when I do it, but sometimes I'm like, I'm too fucking tired to stream. Sometimes I'm also like, I'd rather just calmly play games with my friends and not, because I'm much more like vocal when I stream in comparison to when I'm just like playing a game and I'm like, I don't talk, or I only talk when we need to like interact with each other. Like on Twitch, I'm like making commentary, making jokes, like entertaining while doing what I do.
Keeping the energy up.
Yeah. So I've been streaming Deltarune. I don't know if that game.
I don't know what that is.
You know what the game Undertale is?
I do not.
Shit,
I'm like a
Nick.
Warzone, Call of Duty kind of like basics.
I've been wanting to get into those games until people are like, "Yeah, it's pretty toxic," and I'm like, "Well, all right, that's okay, I guess."
It's toxic, but in a good way, in a fun way.
What the fuck does that mean?
It means. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. It means
it's toxic, but in a good way.
It means everybody's talking shit, but if you don't take it to heart, it's fine.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I just meant toxic, like misogynistic or racist, but
that I can speak. There's some racist stuff that goes on. Yeah, if you get into a crazy chat or a crazy lobby.
I bet. I feel like that's with any video game though.
Yeah.
Also, so there's some whack people on Overwatch.
I have a friend who streams on like, she like records her gameplay and then posts it on like TikTok and stuff, and she says the misogyny is pretty wild when she gets into a lobby.
Dude, being a lady and gaming as a lady, like I don't talk. So that's the thing. I don't fucking talk in my team, which is awful. It's not good sometimes because like you're supposed to communicate with your team, right? I'm like, nope.
No,
I'm like,
not there for that.
If I really need to, I'm like, if they want to talk to me and they have some directions to give, I don't care. At least with Overwatch, it's pretty whack. Like, people will say the weirdest and sometimes misogynistic shit
When they find out you're a girl.
Yeah, and my voice is like not very high pitched. Like off of the top of people's heads, they might maybe not mistaking me as a female, but if I talk enough, obviously it's gonna become very apparent. So I'm like, I don't try to talk too much. Because, like, you have the stereotypical comments of, like, go make me a sandwich, shut the fuck up.
Oh
things
my
like
God.
that. Like, the most shittiest things. And I'm like, what do I do with this? This is, like, I'm here to communicate, and now I've been told to go make a sandwich.
Like, I'm just trying to play video games. Like, what are we doing here?
I'm like, what's the point of me talking? I'm like, so that's why I'm like, okay, if I need anything, I'll type it out or whatever. One game where I haven't came across a lot of toxic people or, like, misogynistic, racist, shockingly, people could correct me on this, is Valorant. I don't know if you are familiar. It's like
I'm familiar with the game. I've never played it.
Yeah, it's like a first-person shooter. You have a very select amount of characters. They kind of have, it's pretty new. It's hard as fuck, but like it's pretty good. But I haven't dealt, like, I'll talk, and I don't feel like I deal very much with people being misogynistic or being a dick or whatever. It's actually pretty positive, weirdly enough. Like, people are like, good job, or what the fuck was that? Just when you, like, miss a shot and you're, like, 2 feet away from somebody. Otherwise, it's relatively positive.
Is it a battle royale?
It's a team fight.
Okay.
There's, like, other options. There's deathmatch. It's just, like, one of the versions you can play in the game where it's like 20 people versus all on a map and you have to kill each other, and then whoever gets to 30 I think wins. So 30 kills.
Okay.
So, and they only last like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, I feel like sometimes. If you have someone that's really good, then only lasts like 5 minutes. So, but the games themselves are so long. I feel like they last like 30 to 45 minutes. It's like you have to like carry a spike and plant it on like A, B, or C, and that's like the whole game. And it's mostly aim based, I would say. It's like some strategy, obviously, but like if you like shooting guns, if they also have spray and things like that. I don't know if like Call of Duty has any of those issues, like spray or anything like that. You have to like words. I'm trying to think about how to describe this.
It's a Friday night.
It's a Friday night. I just worked a couple hours and I'm tired, but yeah, I mean, happiest environment, Valorant. Didn't play Apex for long enough to be able to find out if that was toxic, so. But back to the Undertale and Deltarune thing, just like an 8-bit game. Undertale was super popular in like 2012 or 2011, and it was like a pixel game that the soundtrack blew up like all over the internet because it was really good. I think the guy who made it, his name is Toby Fox. I might be incorrect. I know his first name's Toby, but it blew up. So he made a second game called Deltarune. So it's like has nothing to do. I don't think it has anything to do with Undertale. I'm gonna find out as I play through it. But equally as fire.
Okay.
Yeah, and chapter 2 just got released. So
I did not know that. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
yeah, it's like a turn-based game. So
okay.
Yeah, compared to Call of Duty, you have to take turns between the enemy and yourself. And you have the option of not killing them. So like you can go down a different route with a different ending. So
Okay.
if you spare them and don't murder them, you have a better ending in comparison to brutally murdering them.
So like turn-based RPG style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I've been streaming on Twitch. To sum that up real quick. That went on a whole tangent.
Basically, the games that are not toxic are the go-to.
I like them. If they're toxic, I'll vibe, but like, don't really want to be there. We're just kind of present in the situation.
Yeah.
So it's just how that goes. But
So you stream on OnlyFans too?
I don't stream on OnlyFans. My OnlyFans is pretty dead right now just because I'm awful. I'm an awful individual.
With like keeping up with posting?
I'm so bad at it. It's so awful. I'm like, the issue is it's like, it is a job. And people need to understand that. Because I have people who come up to me and they're like, I want to start an OnlyFans. And I'm like, that's cool. Do you understand that that's going to take 1, work, 2, time, 3, you have to be consistent if you want to keep people on there. Like, I'm trashy. I am. I started it for like 2-3 weeks. I've done this before. Like, it sits there, my OnlyFans, and it's present, it's there. And like, I'll be like, post it on Instagram or whatever, be like, oh, OnlyFans is getting revamped, so if you want customs or you want this, subscribe for a month, because it's probably not going to be there when I lose interest in like a couple of weeks. So that's kind of how that went. But people like don't understand, and I lost fans because of that. I wasn't upset, but I was like, it's what happens if you don't post consistently, if you don't advertise yourself on other platforms like Instagram. Twitter's pretty good. Facebook's a hit or a miss, depending. You're gonna lose fans. You're not gonna get a lot of people. It's a fucking job, and you're like running a business. It's a lot. So I do not really associate. My Instagram is associated with my OnlyFans.
Okay.
And my burlesque page on Facebook is associated with my OnlyFans. I do keep, because I have like a burlesque profile, and then I have a muggle profile is what we call them. And the muggle profile is like my legal name, all that shit. That I keep the burlesque and all of that jazz on there. And I don't even go on the muggle one anymore, to be honest with you. And that's just like family.
I think that's the one I reached out to you on, right?
I was like, Nick,
You're
I don't
like, why are you messaging me on this one? And I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a second one.
Yeah, there's a whole different section, and that's just because like burlesque is prominent enough in my life that that's what I'm constantly engaged in all the time. Like, I don't really, seems shitty, but I don't reach out to family that much. Like, it's just there. Like, if they really need to contact me, it's there, I guess. Because I still get notifications if someone talks to me. That's how I was like, Nick,
what are you doing?
You gotta go.
Yeah,
you gotta
this is not the profile to message.
Not at all. I was like, so the OnlyFans is associated with that one. And I posted it to Facebook, Instagram, all that shit. But I don't stream there's like, you can offer different shit as a sex worker. It's different types of sex work. There's like a fucking very broad range of sex work. You got strippers, you got cam girls, you got OnlyFans girls, and then you have like live escorts, like, prostitution, things like that. And it's like, there's, even in OnlyFans, there's like a category of things you can do, because you can do cam girl shit on OnlyFans. You can run a live feed and do whatever it is you want to do on there. But there's some people who just, like me, for me, my main source of income was like, I make customs. So people,
what are customs?
People order shit from me, so they'll be like, I want this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, okay, it's going to take me this much time. It's going to cost you this much money. I'm like, we can, like, if you want to change something to make it cheaper, we can. Because, like, I'm not exactly the most inexpensive individual when it comes to that. When I do customs, because I don't have a lot of time. I do a lot of shit. So I'm like, I can do this for you. Just going to cost. And some people are 100% fucking willing to pay a lot of money for some really weird shit. So
customs, like, what are we custom, like burlesque attire?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure you were saying customs, and I'm like, what?
Sir,
what are we talking about?
No. Not
oh
like
God,
burlesque
we're gonna
attire.
go in customs.
Customs like sex work customs, like shit you find on Pornhub.
I don't know what that still is.
I don't know how to explain this. Is this a PG-13 podcast?
No, this is rated R. This podcast is R.
Okay,
for sure.
good.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want to say.
So it's like someone could message me and they're like, I want you to play with your titties. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can do that. How long? What exactly are you looking for? Like,
like custom requests.
Yes.
For you to do things.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought that was explanatory.
No, I thought you were making things like a craft OnlyFans, and I was like, okay, like
that is a thing though, but no.
Okay, glad I asked, because I was like, what? Like, custom? Are you making clothing? Like, what are we doing here?
Nope. Just making porn exclusively for certain people.
Okay.
But there's like barriers with that, because I don't do certain things, like, because it's just not within my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
So if some people ask for shit, then I'm like,
not happening.
Fuck no. I'm like, and I mean, I'm not rude about it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. That's not within my boundary. I could do this, this, and this, but I will not do that. Some people are like, well, what the fuck is the point of you having an OnlyFans? I'm like, what the fuck? Get out. And then I block them because I'm like, I'm not going to deal with that shit. I'm like, if there's ever like a potential sex worker listening to this podcast, you don't deal with that shit. You just don't, because those people are exhausting. They will drain you of all your energy. And it is very tiring. So I fucking hate people like that. I really do. Because people don't have respect for sex workers still.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get a lot of those.
God, I can divulge into one story. I will try to keep it as brief as
Oh,
possible.
no. Okay, let's hear it.
So I had this dude, and he was sliding. So most of the time, people go through my OnlyFans, or they go to my premium Snap. Like, I'll move the people from OnlyFans onto the premium Snap, where I'm not posting on OnlyFans, and you're not paying for a subscription. But if you still want customs, you can still order them through this premium Snap, which is different than my Muggle Snap, my normal Snap, pretty much, not really a Muggle Snap. And this dude was messaging me through my burlesque profile multiple fucking times. This man was like, I want to buy this, I want this, I want this. And it was very uncomfortable from the start, but I'm like, I want money, whatever. This man sounds like he's willing to pay for, like, quite a bit. So the first time he messages me, it was pretty consistent, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can absolutely, like, make this content for you. It's not that big of a deal. And then I ended up making the content, and I'm like, send me the money and I can send you the content. And, like, it was like fucking radio silence. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then I messaged him again, and I'm like, hey, are you going to send the money? Otherwise, I'm going to go sell this content to someone else, because I will recycle content, because I'm not going to go and make a whole nother
30 of the same videos.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck. I'm like, that's too tiring. I'm like, I don't have that type of time. 30 of the same videos, 6 minutes each. I mean, look at that. I don't have 3 hours. I'm like, I'll recycle them. But I do give the people if they really want it to be exclusive, I'll maybe charge you a little extra, but I'll do it. Like, it's specifically yours if you really, really want it to. Like, some people want me to say their name, and I charge extra for that because I find that fucking weird. So, but to each their own. That's what get people off. That's what people get off to. So this dude ghosted me, and I was like, well, that's annoying, because it went by a couple of days. And I was like, well, that's a nuisance. So I, like, sold it to somebody else, deleted it, time went by. Pops up in my DMs again, talking all this shit. He's like, I want to see your ass, I want to see your asshole. I'm like, I am having an awful time. And I'm like, no hello, no good morning, just...
No, how's your day?
No, how's your day?
Just let me see your asshole.
That, and I think it was something like, hey, sexy baby. And I'm like, I fucking... Fuck. I'm like, I fucking can't. I'm like, okay. I'm like, hello. And he's just like, he's like, how you been doing? Like, I really want to see your body. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to make anything until you send me the money, and then I'll give you 24-hour processing period, and I can send the content, whatever. Same shit. The same, like, back and forth. But if I didn't message him back, he would message me, like, fucking, like, 5-8 times. And I'm like, eventually I just blocked him. Like, after that interaction, I was like, I can't do this. This is the most annoying motherfucker. And then this man found my Muggle page. That's the one shitty thing about sex work, is if people really, really, really want to find you, like, unless you're pretty thorough about it, you have to keep it very separate, especially if you show your face, which unfortunately a lot of people prefer you to show your face, and that makes more money and things like that. And he somehow found my Muggle page and started harassing me through that. And I was like, I don't go on it that much. So at first I ignored it, but eventually it was just like it was a nuisance. So I was like, okay, so I had to block him on that too. So it's just an example of men who come into my DMs that I find ridiculously annoying. And I'm like, I fucking can't. But that's just
part of it.
Yeah, it's like a weird invisible contract you sign with sex work. Like, you have to be able to have good boundaries. You have to understand that, like, to get into the 1% of OnlyFans and really make a fuck ton of money like advertised, it takes a lot of work. It takes so much advertisement, and there's people who don't, like, really post anything incredibly lewd. Like, some people are just in lingerie, some people just show their titties, and of course there's men on OnlyFans and things like that, like, that are, like, pretty popular, but they've had OnlyFans for, like, a really long time, and they post consistently. Like, if you look, they have, like, over hundreds of posts, over thousands of likes, because they're consistent.
And you build up that
rapport.
Yeah,
and it's like, people, I feel like there's, like, a stigma where people think it's a really quick cash grab. And of course there's, like, people, like, one of the big things is people from high school that knew me. I never fucking talked. Never talked to them. or barely interacted with them, or people that I was like actually good friends with, and of course I don't interact with them too much anymore, who will like slide into my DMs and they're like, yo, so,
Oh no.
and they start that conversation, and I'm like, listen, that's fine. You can go to the OnlyFans and do it that way if you want. Like, this was so funny. So I had someone within the last OnlyFans update, the last pop-up. It's like a pop-up store for me. It's
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'm like an OnlyFans pop-up store. I'm
it's like Spirit Halloween. Like, it's just there, and then it's gone.
Then it's gone. I'm like, you can subscribe if you want, but I'm not going to be posting until I'm posting it about it again on Instagram. So you know it's active if I'm posting it to Instagram. Like, that's it. I think I have like 2 fans right now. I had like 20 like a month ago, and I was like, I don't got time. I'm tired. Like, I had a whole idea for a cow shoot that I was gonna do, and I just like ended up not doing it. Like, but I'm willing to accept that is the consequences of me not being consistent. But anyway, so I had someone, like, I had people DMing me on the OnlyFans. I was like, whatever. So when I knew, I'm like, okay, I'm falling off with OnlyFans again. I need to just transfer people to the premium. They can pay $5. They can order customs. I check it, like, every day or at least every other day. So I get someone that friended me through search. And it was someone I knew that that tried to hit on me long ago, that knew me from high school. We were friends. And I was like, why did you add this? And you know who I am when you already have me on my fucking normal Snap. Like, what was the point of you paying $5? You could just DM me through my normal Snapchat and order a custom. Like, this was a whole process. And now I'm just like, this is just weird. Like, this is just a weird experience. And he just left me on red. He didn't say anything.
Wow.
So,
people.
you're really strange. And that happens a lot. You'd be so shocked the amount of people, I guess if you start an OnlyFans, that people who find you attractive or sexually attracted to you will subscribe for like a month. And just to see you naked or whatever you post on there. It's very interesting. I found surprisingly a lot of people. I was like, oh, I'm flattered, but I'm also like, oh.
What is happening?
Pretty much. I'm like, what? What's good morning, sir? Hello? Most of them were men. I was like, as expected, but I was like, this was just a lot more.
Yeah, where did everybody come from?
Yeah, I was like, where was this when I was back in high school? I mean, fuck. I mean, because people, like, confess their, like, undying sexual attraction. They're like, I found you so hot, I want to eat your ass. I'm like,
my God.
okay, that's one thing. People think that just because I have an OnlyFans, it's like, open up the floodgates for unwanted commentary. I'm like, that's not at all what this is. I'm like, you still need to respect me. When we talk in a conversation, you can't just tell me all your, like, subdued sexual desires, like, you want to eat my ass. I'm like, I don't want to fucking
message,
hear.
like,
You can tit me, and then you can tell me. Like, that was kind of a rule at one point. I'm like, listen, God, someone sent me, like, a fucking entire essay of shit, and I was like, I'm not reading that. I'm like, you can pay me $5, and then I'll read it. Pay me another $5, and then I'll respond. Because I'm like, I can't. This requires so much energy, because I swear, like, it was like a good 2-3 seconds of scrolling. I was like, how do you write that much? Like, purely, like, someone's imagination of their sexual fantasy. I'm like, sir, go write a novel. I'm like, go off.
Funnel that energy somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm like, go become the New York bestseller. I'm like, this was well written. I'm like, good for you, but, like, holy shit. I was like, mildly impressed and mildly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap. Luckily I didn't know them. Or at least I don't think I know them, but that's just how it goes.
That's part of it.
Good God, I fucking can't.
So are people, they subscribe to your OnlyFans, and then they can request customs, or pay for customs?
Yeah, you can't message OnlyFans creators if you don't subscribe to their things.
Okay.
And even then, that's just for me. Other OnlyFans creators, like, there's a girl that I follow on TikTok, and she has an Instagram, and she has an OnlyFans account. It's pretty popular, but she says she will not respond to DMs about customs unless you pay for her to even acknowledge them. Because what happens is, in the DM box of OnlyFans, if someone tips you money, it goes to the top.
Okay.
And then you can read it from there. And also you can look at your statements on who's tipped you. It's kind of a clutterfuck when you go and look at your statements, like the banking and all that shit. But like, you can, like, she wouldn't read them unless people tipped her money, because so many fucking people were just flooding her DMs, because she's gorgeous. She is a beautiful, very hot lady. So, yeah, that's just kind of how that works. And the moment you are unsubscribed, you can no longer message them.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
can't see the content anymore.
No, it is gone.
Is some of it free? Like if you subscribe, then you can see it, or you have to subscribe and then pay for the content as well?
I think you have. I'm pretty sure you have to subscribe to see anything. I don't think OnlyFans has a thing where you can see like a preview. Some people will post things on Instagrams or Twitters or things like that. Like, oh, this is like, they'll preview it on a different platform. And
like
then
a little
go.
teaser.
Yeah, and that's like things that I did. Like, it's a way to catch attention, especially for people who are like, haven't subscribed yet.
Or drive them to your site.
So it would be cool if they did have that type of feature. But OnlyFans is a very newish / very unsteady platform for sex workers right now, because there was the whole problem with them almost trying to stop sex workers.
Yeah, which seemed crazy because that's 99.9% of their base.
It was fucking ridiculous, because like OnlyFans got popular because of sex workers. Like, you can't deny that fact. Like,
yeah, they'd have like 5 users if they excluded everybody else.
Yeah, there's like, oh my god, the funniest thing to me is like, I'll see you subscribe to one person unless you subscribe to more people on your actual page, and it's to OnlyFans, which is just like a promotional page. And like, I see promotions for OnlyFans, and it's like, one, all women, which I'm like, the power to you. I love it. I love hot ladies. But my issue with it is it's like very lewd hot ladies, but they're like exercise channels or cooking channels or things like that. And I'm like, I find that so hard to believe. I'm like, they're like, it's like, I'm like, who exercises in nearly a bikini? I mean, like, I get it. Maybe some do. I don't exercise. So I'm like, maybe some people do. They're like, I would not cook with my cleavage out. Like, I'm going to get oil on my tit and I'm going to burn. Like, that's nothing I'm looking forward to. So it's just like a weirdly lewd channels that aren't lewd. I'm assuming. I don't know. Never subscribed to them.
It's like kind of sexual, but not.
Weirdly sexual, but even then, maybe some people do like to cook or exercise in like much more like showing attire. You shouldn't sexualize their bodies anyways, but I was just like, it just seems strange to me, and I'm like, that was all that was advertised. I don't think I saw a single male advertised or a single male page advertised. Like, I assume there's people on OnlyFans, like dudes who were like, exercise workout at home or whatever the fuck. So
it's just one creepy old guy watching them, and it's like,
yeah, yeah, this isn't what I thought it was. Yeah. So, like, what is it? Tito Bonito. He's a male burlesque performer, and he has an OnlyFans. And he's a wonderful host. He's a wonderful man, and he's fantastic. And he has an OnlyFans page, and it's just so funny to me because I haven't had the opportunity to ask if males have a harder time on OnlyFans. Like, because a lot of the discussions, like, I say it jokingly, but I also, like, kind of mean it, because I feel like the proportion of women to men is pretty, like, big, and I might be incorrect about this. Like, I'm not citing this from anything
I would
specific.
imagine it is.
Yeah, because I brought it up with dudes. Men in OnlyFans, 2 things come to mind. The first one is if I'm like, why don't you just start an OnlyFans? Because some dudes are like, I've thought about doing that a couple of times, and I'm like, what's stopping you? Like, you don't have to post your cock straight to the internet. Like that's not what it is. And they'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, you don't have to. Like, this is fine. I'm not telling you to do it. But I'm like, if they have a nice body, I'm like, you easily could. Like, there might be people out there who want to see you, and you could pose, do whatever you want. Like, it's still a channel of expression additional to being, you know, sex work at the same time. Because, like, I still use my personas a little bit in my sex work, especially, like, my succubus look and, like, my demonic look. That was pretty popular with people. So, but it's between, like, back to the men thing. Some men are just, like, weirdly stigmatized to it still. They're like, oh, I don't want to do sex work. And I'm like, well, you've already thought about it. So why are you still, like, objected to it at the same time, and then men with girlfriends or partners having an OnlyFans. Mostly partners, but men specifically, I have seen have this problem. If their partner wants to or has an OnlyFans, they have like a really big deal about it. And I understand. I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, it's the same thing like with people who have sugar daddies and are making a fuck ton of money but still having a partner. Like, it goes towards the relationship. And if there's like a boundary you want your partner to have when they're doing sex work or whatever it is, like, you can set that. But being like, no, I'm gonna break up with you if you do that, like, it just seems very extreme to me.
Have you had a hard time dating with having an OnlyFans?
My current partner, Alvin, at this time, at first was not a Gucci with it. And I kind of talked to him and I'm like, well, first of all, it is my body. I understand you're not good with it, but it is my body and people pay me a lot of money for it. You're not exactly rich and you can't be like a sugar daddy for me. So at that time he couldn't anyways. Right now he's fine, but like,
can't pay the bills yet.
Like, you pay your chunk, but you can't, like, if I want something, like, I want to have the money to be able to obtain it. So I'm like, there's that. Plus at the time I wasn't like, my boundaries were a lot closer. Like, I kind of expanded after a point because I'm like, fuck it, whatever. Because I'm like, I just don't understand, like, people want a picture of my asshole, but to each their own, again. So I've kind of like loosened up my boundaries as time has kind of gone along. So we set boundaries in the very beginning, but as time went along, his viewpoint from what he said to me is he's like, I'm the one that's dating you. It's the same thing with burlesque. It's the same thing. In the end, I'm the one that's dating you, quote. I'm the one that's fucking you, quote. It's kind of like amusing to me that other men want you so bad, but they can't have you. And for me, mostly it was men. I don't have a lot of women that come into my DMs or whatever it is. So we're going to say men in this setting. So for him, it's more like, I know that we are together and that, because there's like sex work, but then like your sexual relationship with your partner is a lot different. Because that's like something more private. Like, there's things I don't share to OnlyFans. Like the things that I do or whatever it may be. So there's private things and private matters that are between me and my partner. It's not broadcasted. It's not sold. It's none of those things. So he kind of like loosened up to the idea as that mindset kind of developed.
He had to warm up to it a little bit.
I think because like he was really not happy with it at first. And I'm like, well, this is something I'm really thinking about doing. And I already kind of do, like, burlesque and sex work are different. But I'm like, people would follow me, people would pay money, you know, they've already seen me nearly nude anyways, bedazzled in jewels, but now they can just see like a more personal interaction and pay money for it. So, and you know, I'm not sure when his like mind changed. I think he kind of just dwelled on it maybe, and it kind of changed over time.
Slowly worked away.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about it, and I told him, I mean, I was very transparent. I'm like, this is a thing I got asked today. This is a thing I'm working on to post today. This is what I'm doing today. And he's like, I feel like that made him a little bit more comfortable because there's like no secrecy to the OnlyFans. I was like, this is clearly what's happening. Like, the way I talk to people isn't a business transaction unless they're paying for some type of altered experience. And in that point, it's acting. So, yep.
Are there some things that he's still not comfortable with, or is he pretty on board with whatever you're comfortable with?
He's pretty much on board with whatever I'm comfortable with. He gets really irritated when men try to like push themselves or violate that boundary, and that's when he can get uncomfortable because he doesn't want me having that negative experience about it. He's like, are you sure you want to keep like doing it? Because like people get mean. Like they will, one minute they're like, you're beautiful, I want to eat your bum or eat your pussy, whatever. And then when you tell them no, like
then the switch flips and it's like,
and they're like, you're a fat slut. And I'm like, wow. Like, we went from two
it's like, what happened to
different...
asking to eat my asshole? Where did that just go?
Like 2 minutes ago, you were asking to eat my ass. Now you're telling me I'm a fat slut. Like, what? Like, pick a fucking lane.
Wow.
That's how it goes, though.
Wow.
That's how it is. It's ridiculous. Like, men and, like, rejection dysphoria is crazy. I'm like, don't get me wrong, I have my own issues with rejection that I've had to work through. It's hard. To be rejected is hard. I give them kudos for that. Does not mean you get to flip a switch and call someone a fat slut. Or mostly for me, because I am not a thin lady, it's like fat, whore, anything in that type of like vocabulary. So fuck you, go die, things like that. And it's
Was it
awful.
hard working through that at first?
I-
Because I'd imagine
It was uncomfortable.
yeah.
It was pretty uncomfortable, especially because, like, I have issues with, like, body dysmorphia and things like that. So, like, and body image is hard, and being body positive at first was very hard. Especially in the beginning. Like, to do sex work and interact with men, it takes, that's why I said, it takes boundaries. And it takes having kind of a thick-ish skin. Like, you
I would
have,
imagine.
yeah, because they're gonna pop off, and you have to be like, we don't, like, this business action is no longer, like, it's terminated, and you just block them. Like, you don't owe anybody a response when they fucking say that. Like, don't waste your time, don't waste your energy, because there's, like, you know, as, like, a bigger sized lady, you already have to deal with people kind of doing that on a day-to-day basis, and kind of making your presence aware, and being body positive about it. So, it's kind of how that goes. So, you learn to draw boundaries really quick. That's what I try to tell people when they're like, I'm thinking about starting it. And I'm like, listen, these are like some basic steps. And I'm not even an expert on like OnlyFans. It's just within my experience. Like, I refer people out. Like, I outsource people to people I know, to people that run classes on how to successfully run OnlyFans. Like, I have a burlesque artist in the Bay Area. She's super popular on OnlyFans. Like, she's one of the... I think she's 13%. I might be wrong, but she's like up there.
Oh, like in the 13th percentile on the platform.
On OnlyFans, okay. And she's very successful. She's Asian woman, like me, very bigger bodied, and she's very successful. And she runs a class, or she did run a class that I was outsourcing people to, because I was like, she's very successful. She's consistent. She has a way better idea of how to go about it than I do. So. Yeah, that's like one of my main people. I'm like, if you have questions, go that I can't answer, you go ask her, because I'm like, she's wonderful, or sorry, they are wonderful. They are wonderful people, and I adore them. So
I feel like it'd be easy to get jaded having people ask you like wild things, like when it gets a little too crazy and they're like, oh, do this, this, and this. I feel like it'd be easy to get jaded at people.
You can get irritated, like. I've been irritated with people when they push too much, but, like, that's when you have to go back. There's a point where it's like, okay, our interactions are, one, getting inappropriate, two, you're very clearly, like, crossing my boundaries, and I'm not, and, like, I don't like the way you're talking to me. You can either change the tone, or you're gonna get blocked. And the thing about it is, like, some people put their, like, full-ass name, or I know them, or they'll tell me, or whatever it is, and, like, I'll block them on everything. Everything. I had to do that with someone. Well, I don't remember what they did. But I've had to block them on Instagram, Facebook, OnlyFans, and Twitter. Because I was just like, I don't remember what they did at all. But
it was just too much.
They just did something, and I was like, oh, I remember now. They saved my shit on my premium Snap. And that was a rule I had, that you cannot save my shit off a premium Snapchat, because it's fucking there forever. You just save it in the chat. You can go back and look at it whenever you want. I'm like, don't outsource it. Don't save it to your phone. Don't. Like, I'm not allowing that. If you want to keep the premium chat, which is where I'm more like present at that time. And then, you know, Snapchat tells you when people save photos, people save videos, it notifies you actually. And I was like, why did you save my video? And he was pretty much like, I didn't. And I was like,
that's funny. I got the notification.
Do you think I'm fucking stupid? I'm like, what? Excuse me? I'm like, no. And then I just blocked him on everything. Because I'm like, no. I'm like, it's so basic. The rules are so basic. Having some respect, it's not that hard. I don't comprehend why men, mostly, are the big purpose. I hate to be like, men suck. But honestly, a lot of men. It's mostly men that I have the problems with. Like, if I've interacted with, like, one or two women and they're perfectly fine, they're like, that's fine, like, that's okay if you don't want to do that. Like, is there anything else I could get? And I'll be like, this, and this. They're like, oh, I'd like that. It's really not that fucking hard. I don't understand why men specifically have such a hard time respecting women. But I guess that goes into misogyny history. I guess, there's that.
I think some men It's definitely not all men, but some men, when sex is involved, it gets a little dicey. They can get a little seedy, for whatever reason.
Dude, it's whack. It's so whack to me. Like, I don't know. You're right, it's not all men, but it's unfortunately more than it should be. Cuz like I've had a quantity of like sexual partners in my life. And like don't get me wrong, everybody's ghosted someone in their life. We all lose contact or whatever when we're fucking somebody or we're fuck buddy or whatever, but like I don't know, dude. The way sometimes men go about it is just like really terrible. Like, oh fuck. This dude that I was fucking at one point, it was a while ago because I've been with my partner now for like recently we had gone back together because a bunch of shit had happened within the last like couple of months. But before that, we had been together for like 2 going on 3 years. So this is like way long ago. And I was fucking this dude. It was fine. He kind of like ended up ghosting me a little bit, and I was like, what's kind of going on? He was like, yeah, we shouldn't fuck anymore. Like, this is over. I was sad, boo-hoo, whatever. Come to find out, 1 to 2 days later, I get a text from my friend, and he's like, hey, how long were you so-and-so and like you and so-and-so fucking for? I'm like, I don't know, like a month or 2. And he's like, weird. He's dating my friend now. And I'm like, what? What? He's like, yeah, apparently they've been talking for a while. And I'm like, well, that didn't really bother me at that point. But I'm like, well, does she know that I existed? Because most of the time, because it wasn't a romantic interaction. It was purely a sexual thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, for me, I was like, ah, boo-hoo, it was sad. But I was like, because he ended up dating this chick. So I'm like, oh, fuck, does she know that I existed? Because, like, it's kind of fucking shady. Like, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, I find that shady. Like, if you're not openly like, hey, I am still seeing other people, still having sex with other, like, sexual communication is very important. So in this scenario, I was kind of like, you should probably tell her that I existed. And he's like, yeah, I might, because he was friends with her. So he did. He's like, yeah, did you know that your boyfriend was fucking my friend for, like, a month or 2? And she's like, first she went into shock apparently, and then she called me a liar. And I was like, why would I lie about that? I'm like, if anything, it's like the other way around. Like, I'd be like, I never fucked him. Like why would I lie?
I flip just went with that.
Yeah, like, why would I lie? Why would I lie? Like, there's no logical reason why I would lie. And I'm like, and apparently he also said that, like, oh, that never happened. So I'm like, well, at that point, what do you do? So they dated for a year or 2 and they broke up. Then that was that. But that was just one of the many interactions where I'm just like, what the fuck? Or just specifically dudes being like, I want to work on myself right now. I just want to focus on and like a week later, he's like dating some bitch. And it's like, you see it on Instagram. It's not like a vague thing. And I'm like, what happened to like your spiritual awakening you had like not 2 weeks ago? So it's just kind of like that. Like, I haven't had any interactions with women thus far to compare because I'm bi, but I've been kind of came into that conclusion when I was dating my partner, when I was like, realized I'm like, yeah, there's like some women that I am sexually attracted to in like, not a lot of them in around this area, but there are some. And I had to acknowledge that. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely bi. So I can't compare any women to the men experience, but most of the men have been that. It's always I'm the secret fuck affair, and then they date someone else, or I need to spiritually awaken, and then they go and date someone else. And it's like, which I'm like, if you just don't want to like fuck anymore, or if you're like talking to someone and you want to date them and has to end, like, that's fine. Like, I don't understand why people like have a problem with that, I guess. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think that sometimes you don't want to hurt the other person's feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So you might say, oh, I just don't think that this is working out. Like, I guess you could say I need to focus on myself a little bit. But then...
Yeah, but it's the first part you said. It's this isn't working out. Like, a lot of the experiences I've had, I never got this isn't working out. It was
they just say...
They're just like, oh, no, it's like,
I gotta take some time for myself.
Yeah, like, do some self-care. I'm like, oh, yeah, good for you. Like, that's cool. The first person, I'm like, yeah, I totally understand. Second person, you're like, yeah, I get it. Third person, you're just like, uh-huh. You know, you kind of get used to it after a point, which is terrible, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's just the way the world goes around. And a lot of people just don't want to deal with confrontation.
I think that's the biggest thing.
It's not that big of a deal, though. I mean, confrontation's uncomfortable. Like, it's really fucking uncomfortable. Like, it's not an enjoyable process. However, like, people are willing to, like, destroy relationships that they have with people, whether it's platonic or romantic, in exchange for never having a confrontation. Then there's just, like, bad blood. And it's weird. Like, currently at this moment in time, I'm dealing with having really bad blood with somebody. Because, like, our interactions were, like, pretty brief. But, like, when they stopped talking to me, it was because of their mental health. But they, like, cut me out completely. And I thought it was like, oh, we're still going to be friends. We're still going to hang out. We're still going to go do these things. And they, like, completely stopped talking to me. And I was like, we hung out all the fucking time. So I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, it was like a switch. And it, like, really hurt me. And I never got an explanation on top of that. Additionally, a whole event occurred. And, like, when I tried to talk to them about it, because it was a pretty extreme event. Like, it's one of those situations. And I was like, hey, I kind of just want to talk to you about this event that happened. Like, are you okay? Like, I kind of want the details of these things. Because, like, I really cared about this person. Like, I'm freaked the fuck out when all these things had happened.
Do you mind if I ask what happened? You don't have to say.
Not just for, like, censorship, probably shouldn't. Because it's pretty identifiable for some people. But, you know, things that have to do with, like, mental health and things like that. And so when I asked for further elaboration from them, they were like, to be honest, you're really fucking irritating me. And I was like, uh-huh, okay. That fucking hurt really bad. And it really fucking hurt really bad. So I was like, because I hadn't really, like, they were willing to talk to other people. That's why I was like, okay, it's an open gate. I can go talk to them, like, because I was really worried about everything that was going on. And then, yeah. And I'm like, I haven't talked to them since. It's been a good month or two now. Just like that. And I was like, how the fuck do people do that, dude? Like, I don't understand how people can just, like, cut people off and never talk to them again. It's so weird to me. It's incredible, but it's, like, terrible at the same time. So, the human brain's crazy. So I do what I do for a living, which is, like, not sex work, but mental health work. So, I have a very weird life.
I think it's hard. I think whenever you're dealing with another person, there are just so many variables that play into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you don't know like how everything that went down affected her. Maybe it was something. Maybe it didn't even have anything to do with you, and for whatever reason, she just attributed something to you, and then could no longer. You know, like you just never know with somebody else
Oh,
unless they're
yeah.
willing to say, "Hey, this is what happened," and
Well,
articulate that.
yeah, and that was the thing. Like, I learned, like, we're, you know, friends with the friends of the friends of the friends. Like, you know, I hear everything. So I heard what their explanation was of this event that to other friends of ours, and they didn't even really go into detail with them. Like, it was very brief. It was very blunt. It left a lot of, like, unresolved issues that I've talked to those friends about it because we all kind of went through it together, and they're like, it is what it is. They're still friends with them. I would not say that I am. Like, I kind of, like, removed them because seeing their face and seeing any of them, like, caused extreme amounts of, like, emotional, like, anguish for me. Because it was, like, it was just such a sudden, like, flip for me personally. And it's like, you don't, and they, like, I've asked, and they just never really gave me any type of, like, emotional communication about why they act the way they do. They were just like, that's just who I am. And I'm like, that's not a good answer. So, that's how it goes. And yeah, environmental, situational. In their case, mental health problems. Like, there's so many factors that play into why people do what they do. And it's unfortunate to a degree. Because it's like, I thought I was aware of these things with this person because they brought the mental health forward to me. I knew the situational, kind of knew where they were at emotionally from what they communicated. So maybe I was incorrect and wrong. I don't know. But I've never had this type of issue happen with anybody else. Like, I've had friends who have had the same event, same emotional health problems, and events that take place from those emotional health problems or mental health problems. And, like, after the things are done, they kind of are like, they're open, they communicate. They're like, yeah, this is what I was thinking at that time. This is what I've been going through on a long timeline. And, like, I'm sorry I didn't communicate with y'all. I know you're there for me, but it just got too overwhelming for me in that moment, and then things happened from there. So it was just a completely different experience than anything I think I've ever had. And for someone who I thought I grew pretty close to, it
that can
hurt.
sting. That can sting.
Yeah, it burnt hard. So, but I mean, now I feel like I'm kind of like more over it. Like, hearing their name kind of sucks, but like, you gotta move on with your life and let shit go. So they're living their life and they seem like they're working on their mental health, and in the end of the day, I'm glad to hear that. So I couldn't really ask for much more than that. So
on top of confrontation, I think people really struggle with actual communication. I think that's a real problem.
Oh, fuck.
Especially nowadays.
Oh my god. Jesus fuck. Good Lord help me. I'm gonna pour another shot.
Yes, I will pour you one. You want another tequila?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that, listen,
like,
we're going deep.
We're going in. It's fine. I will get into communication because that's a communication's interesting. I fall in communication. Like, I am not a perfect
I've been
being.
there.
Communication's hard. It's not enjoyable, but there are correct and wrong ways to do communication. I recently just went through a situation yesterday that was completely bananas. It was exhausting.
I have beer and other stuff too if you want.
Oh no, I'll just take a shot of this. It's fine. Bonkers shit though. So communication can be done correctly. Like, of course you need to respect each other's feelings. Even if you think they're fucking wrong, you have to have a level of respect. There's been times where I've talked to people and I'm like, I've confronted them about something, behavior that they may not notice that they're doing. And their reactions at first are kind of abrasive because nobody likes to be confronted, especially about something that you're doing that's kind of shitty, which I understand. So it takes a lot of patience. But, like, eventually the communication boiled down and it was fine. Like, it was, we talked out the behavior that was happening and we came to a conclusion. And we're still Gucci. We're still fine. However, yesterday, completely fucking bananas. I'm having a conversation with somebody. Has nothing to do with anything in particular. I just kind of told them, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gender fluid. So that's a thing. I go by he, she, or they. I'm pretty broad with my
We're going to have to talk about that. I did not know that.
It's a very recent thing for me.
Okay.
But, we were just talking about stupid shit. We were talking about a women's rally that's happening apparently in October. And we were just talking about shit. And I told them, I'm like, oh yeah, fun fact, I'm gender fluid. That's a thing. I've been slowly trickling it to people before I come out on all my social platforms and all that shit. So, like, we were talking about that, and then I was like, yeah, I've kind of came the last couple months, which have been me and my partner's break, that shit with the friend who kind of just cut me off like everything. I switched jobs. I, like, quit a job that I'd worked for like 3.5 years, and now I work for, like, a different mental health job. So my life got fucking chaotic real fast. Like, everything was changing around me, and that was really overwhelming. So I, like, kind of said that. I was like, yeah, like, life got pretty chaotic. And they made a comment, and this is what I mean by incorrect communication. They made a comment to me, and they were like, yeah, you do have boundary issues, so that could definitely play, or something like that.
They said that to you?
Yeah, pretty much being like, you have boundary issues, so that kind of plays, oh, no, that's what they said. No, it was a passive comment in the beginning. Before they said you have boundary issues, they said, have you ever thought about seeing a therapist for boundaries? And I was like, where the fuck did that come from? Like, where in this conversation did that, like...
It was just out of the blue.
Out of fucking nowhere. So I was like, okay, I have thought about this. However, I feel like my current life situation in the past few months does not have to do with me and my boundary issues. Because how I work on my boundaries has been progressive. Like, I've had boundary issues. I'm aware of this. And then they're like, well, you've had boundary issues, so that could definitely be directly correlated to your chaotic life chapter. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm like, you didn't even ask, like, and I told her within these like mix of conversation, I'm like, first of all, I had a friend who had a mental health event that took place. That is one of the reasons why it got so fucking chaotic. I quit my job and moved to a different job, equally as chaotic, and I had in practice of setting boundaries, I broke up with my partner for a period of time. I'm like, there are so many things that happened within this period of time, and then they continued trying to communicate with me when I'm already like very clearly, I feel like stating that I'm like, the way you're going about this may not be the best way. They kind of pulled up a bunch of past shit where I've violated their boundaries, where I've like, no, I've been dismissive of them, things like that from like the past, and like brought up like undug a lot of past shit. Because I don't talk to this person that frequently. Like, I talk to them on and off. They were a very, very old childhood best friend of mine. And I was like, we touch base here and there. And they called me out on something that I had done that I apologize for because it was wrong at the time, of an event that they had gone through with a sexual predator that had groomed them. And I was like, how I dealt with trauma at that period of time, I like projected onto them. And I was like, why don't you just go and participate in this group that you're in anyways? Like, fuck that, dude. Kind of a thing, without really taking into consideration like how much this person had harmed them. In which, for me, that's always kind of how I've been. I've always been like a fuck everybody, like fuck you for hurting me, fuck you for this, like I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, might punch you in the jaw if I see you in person, kind of a thing, which didn't allow me to process my emotions. So it's not the all solution to when people fuck you over or people have done really bad shit to you. Like, you should take that time and process it. And in the case of my friend who brought this up to me, I was like, I read that and I was like, damn, like that wasn't okay. Like, that
So you
was
would kind
wrong.
of suppress it, and that's kind of the advice you gave to her.
Yeah, because for
Okay.
me, I'm like, suppress it and keep chugging, because I'm a very big, I do a lot, and it's just how I am. I try to achieve as much as possible. I'm an entertainer. I work in a very intense field, and my life is constantly on the go. Like, I don't think there's, like, I stop in the evening time, take some time to self-care, decompress, and it's like, once the daylight hits, we're right back
Back at it.
out there again. So, and that's just how I function. But I did apologize to them about that, because I'm like, yeah, that was not okay of me to say to you. Like, that's not good. Like, I'm sorry I said that to you. And this was like, oh, this was maybe like 2 years ago or something like that. So it's like some time away. But I'm like, if it still affects you to this day, like, I am sorry. Like, that was not all right of me to say to you, especially when during that time you were very vulnerable and emotionally like damaged from this situation. So definitely took accountability for that. But like, I was, it like, I don't know what it did to me, but it drained me of like all my energy. Like, comparatively to when I've talked to other friends about things or anything, like I leave the conversation, I'm like tired, but I'm not like dead drained. Like, it gave me like a weird adrenaline rush that I crashed later in the day. And it like completely just, I don't even know. It was just not a good, it was like an incorrect way. Like, it was inserted in a conversation that it didn't need to be inserted with. And I had like no prep into the conversation. It just was like, went from like 1 to 100 so fast. And I was like 1 minute we're talking about me being gender fluid and I'm trying to be vulnerable with you. And the next minute you're telling me like all this terrible shit that apparently I've done, like how I've been dismissive and all these things, in which I'm like, true, I'm not like a perfect person. I used to be a terrible person. Very much acknowledge that. I'm like, I've had to grow significantly from the person I used to be to the point that I'm at right now. However, do not appreciate someone coming at me and being like, you have boundary issues, without even fucking asking me like what my current life situation is or what I've done recently to help my mental health, any of these things. Like, it was just very abrasive and it irritated me very badly, because I'm just like, I don't appreciate sudden judgment, because I felt like it was a very big judgment moment before actually hearing like what this chaotic moment in my life is. So it was just really, really, really fucking chaotic of a conversation. And it was very emotionally intense between like both of us, because I'm like pissed, because I'm like, where the fuck did all this come from? Like, I wish you kind of gave me like a prep before we got into this conversation. Also, during this conversation, I was like at work. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like at work doing mental health stuff, and then this is happening, and I'm like,
Not the best time.
not the best time. And I was like, I didn't tell them that I was at work, because I'm like, well, we're already in it now. I'm like, you're already like telling me all these things. Like, hold up, we're gonna pull up some receipts here.
Oh
real quick.
shit!
Like, it was,
It got a little heated.
It really bugged the fuck out of me. It was like, it really, really did not make me the most happiest individual on the planet. I even sent it to two of my friends who are pretty emotionally intelligent, I would like to say. Because I'm like, you know what? Did I deal with this correctly? Did they deal with this correctly? Like, this was a very unique conversation to me. So I didn't even know how to process it, to be honest. Let me see. My phone is so laggy, but it was not bueno for me personally. I was like,
Was this over text then? You guys?
yeah, it was over like a conversation between. Oh no, it's gone now. I think. Yeah, it's gone now. Damn, because I like deleted the conversation, because every time I saw the conversation, I just like remembered how like emotionally frustrated I was, and I was like, I can't keep looking at this like chat bubble and like stressing myself out. And it ended fine. I mean, to the best of my ability and to best of their ability, I feel like we came to a conclusion. But like it left me very like very shaky and unstable. Like the whole rest of the day I was like out of it. It was so weird. And even though like one thing that but the only thing about it is this is like the third or the second time where we've had like a very in-depth conversation.
You and this person?
Yeah, about like, because we grew up together. Like that's a thing. And don't get me wrong, I understand that I was like, that's what I said, not a good person. I wasn't a good person. I definitely was dismissive. Like, I've done things that I regret. Like, I think a lot of us can definitely done some fucking things where we fucking regretted it. And I'm like, that's why I try to take accountability, and that's why when I got called out on specific things, I'm like, yeah, like, I'm sorry. However, the way I'm being presented these things, like, some of these things are kind of outdated. Like, these are things that I've worked on before. And
it's like bringing up the past.
Yeah. And
unnecessarily.
And I was like, and it came so fast and so sudden and just like, and it was mixed with things like, I'm very like, proud of you for it was like a weird mix of positive but then like extreme negatives of like trying to hold me accountable. And I'm like, that's fine to hold me accountable, like I will apologize as I did for the things that I've done, but like maybe this conversation was maybe not the time to do it. Like you could have been like, hey Felicity, before we continue talking, like everything's like okay, I have some shit on my mind, do you have the time to talk? Or I told them, I'm like, you could have approached it by asking questions before just like hopping into saying like my chaotic lifestyle is due to my boundary issues, like saying these things about my character. You could have been like, hey, does any of these things have to do with like your boundaries? Have you been practicing your boundaries? Like there's ways to touch base and check in and
the
get
approach
updated.
Could have been a little bit better.
Definitely better. So I was like, and I'm like, next time you kind of like go out any of these things, like you should definitely like ask questions, because we don't talk that frequently. Like you don't know probably the last like fucking 6 months of my life. I'm like, and I felt shitty saying that to them, because I do love and cherish them still, because they are the reason I feel like I am where I'm at now. Because I'm like, my childhood and growing up, they were my safe haven, because my home life was shit. So they were like my safe space. So I do always have like a level of respect for them. But like, and I'm fine not talking to them though. Like if they want to check in, touch base, update me on their life, I'm fine with that. If they want to hang out, they can message me and I'll like try to find time for that. Like very rarely, and this is like something I could work on, is like I very rarely make plans with individuals, like individual friends. Because, like, most of the time I'm trying to do, like, a project or I'm trying to do
You're busy.
burlesque. Yeah, it's just shit that I do. Because, like, we have such a limited amount of fucking time on Earth, and I'm, like, 22. And for some people, they're like, you're so young. I'm like, fuck, I'm running out of time. I'm like, I gotta keep doing more stuff.
That's how
I'm like,
I feel.
it's crazy. And
Oh
it's.
man, you can drive yourself insane going down that rabbit hole.
Oh fuck! I nearly have. It's batshit because I'm like, oh my god, every day that ticks by, I don't feel like I have enough time in the day to achieve what I want to achieve, and it's like, so I do get wrapped up in that. I am 100% aware, and I don't mean to dismiss people if that's a general characteristic of mine, but like when I sent it to the people who, like I said, have a very high emotional intelligence, they've been around me, they're updated with my life. I'm like, please tell me, like, what the fuck? Why am I so irritated with this? They're like, I understand holding you accountable. That's fine. They're like, but they approached you definitely not at a good time. Definitely not the way that they should have. And they're like, and I feel like you have progressed and you have gotten better with your boundaries and like character development and things like that. They're like, so this is kind of like maybe just wasn't the best time, and they've kind of like projected some of their anxiety onto you and kind of their feelings onto you about things. That's what my partner said, and what one of the people that I consulted with said. They're like, I feel like they're projecting. And I didn't see that personally, but if that's kind of there was a lot of things. It was a long conversation. It was a thick text, long conversation between us. And it's just like, it's just a form of communication that could have gone better. Was it needed? Is it a conversation that I'm glad happened? Yes. How it was delivered and how it made me feel afterwards? No. Because, like, if they had literally asked me if I was, like, ready to have that type of conversation right now, I would have been like, we could meet up and talk in person. Like, we could call.
Time and place.
Yeah, and, like, they're very emotionally, like, vulnerable. Like, there was a time with them specifically where, like, my partner at that time was having, like, they have mental health struggles, and they were having, like, a full-blown, like, panic attack. And I was supposed to, like, call them on Discord and watch Attack on Titans, like, with them. And I couldn't do that because my partner's sobbing in the bed, and I'm like, okay, I need to, like, help them. And, like, they started, like, calling and texting me frantically, and they're like, they got, like, mad at me and started saying a bunch of passive-aggressive shit. And I was like, dog, like, my partner is currently having a panic attack. Like, he has mental health problems, and he has panic attacks sometimes. And it took me, like, literally saying that in bold when I really personally didn't want to, like, put their mental health on blast. I was like, dude, holy fuck. I'm like, so I've had issues with this person before. And, like I said, I do love and I do cherish them. But, like, they got a lot of, like, work that they kind of have to do with their emotional expression. And kind of how they deliver it. Because sometimes they are very blunt. And some people are perfectly fine with that. Some people like the bluntness. For me, I like to have a very, like, easing into it because I don't like to get slammed with a wall of emotional shit at an inconvenient time. Because, like, I feel obligated to message you back because I don't want you to feel like your feelings are being inconsiderate and leave you unread. And that could be a boundary problem. Like, I should have been like, yeah, maybe right now is not the time to talk about this. We can talk about it later. But I genuinely was just so caught off guard that I was like, holy fuck. Like, plus I was angry, so that didn't really help in that scenario. So, an example of proper communication. Always ask, hey, kind of put an intro into it. Like, hey, you know, I've had something on my mind. Do you mind if we talk? So that the person at least is ready to have a conversation. And if they're not, like, ready to have a conversation, then I feel like it's, like, a weird form of consent. Like, because those are very emotionally... Do you want to talk about jaded? Those conversations make me jaded. Like, sometimes I get anxiety when people just pop off out of nowhere about very emotional shit or do certain things that I'm like, did I do something wrong or any of those things? Like, if they're passive aggressive or if they're short with me, it, like, now causes, like, things where I'm like, oh god, have I done something incorrect? They're like, no, I'm just busy. I'm like, oh, okay. So, confrontation is necessary. Timing it appropriately is also very important. So,
yeah, I appreciate people when they're blunt, but people sometimes get confused between being blunt and being a douche.
Being rude.
Yeah.
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 They're
That's the
like,
thing. They're like, oh, they say something. They're like, I'm just being honest, and it's like, no, you're kind of just being an asshole. Like, there's
yeah,
a difference between saying what should be said and saying what should be heard.
yeah. It's like there's like constructive criticism, and constructive criticism is different than being rude.
Yeah.
There's like if for example if I was like watching someone do an act in burlesque or anything like that, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, you look terrible, like that looks
Yeah.
terrible, your
Oh, you
costume
messed
looks
up
like
right here.
shit.
Like, how could you do that?
Yeah,
Like,
or like that's instead you have to look, and sometimes it takes a conscious like mindset, like a growth mindset, to be able to switch from having that, because some people do excuse me, don't mean it in a rude way. Sometimes people are just, it's how they've communicated for their whole life with family, whatever it may be. Like they may have had a toxic home life and that's just how they communicated with their family. So for them that's normal, even if they're not in it anymore. But calling them out is okay. They'd be like, hey, sometimes I don't feel good when you approach me like this. I don't like it when you say those things. Like it's a lot about expressing how you feel instead of pointing blame and being like, you this, you that.
yeah.
Like even with constructive criticism, you have things like, "Ah, you look like shit," instead of being like, "Hey, I think you could do this. Like you could do this instead of doing this, or you could add like more rhinestones to this part of your act," or and that goes into like that can be applied to pretty much any way you talk to someone. It's like respect
Yeah.
for someone instead of just being rude and unnecessary. So that's a pretty big thing. I don't feel like I interact too much anymore with people who I think are kind of blunt and rude like that anymore.
Because it's draining.
It is draining, but also because, like, to be honest, it's fucking batshit. So, like, my friend group over the years, like, it started pretty broad. Like, it was pretty big. We were all friends, like, all the theater kids, just, we were all friends. We all partied together. Slowly and slowly, it's just been like, if you weren't a good person and you weren't like trying to change for the betterment of things, like you kind of got excluded like out of the group. Like we had a girl who would like scream at people at parties every time she got drunk, like would just blow up. And eventually we just stopped because we're like, dude, what the fuck? And then there were people who used to be part of the friend group who used to gossip a whole bunch and they were kind of like rude. And they would say really mean things and eventually they weren't like invited anymore, you know. So they kind of just naturally got like feeded out because the negative energy just wasn't wanted anymore. And some of the people that got excluded I still contact with because I haven't had negative interactions with them specifically, which isn't a good thing because I've had conversations with particular people that aren't really invited to some events anymore because of the things that they've done to friends within that group that have made them feel really bad. And like I could definitely understand both viewpoints because I'm like told, oh, like, oh, they did this to me, they've said these things to me. I'm like, oh, that's valid. And like again, this could be definitely a boundary issue, but like for example, I went to do cosplay and shit. I went to a con with two of my friends, and I learned one of those friends in this group of three of us is someone who kind of just like stopped getting invited to things because they really, really hurt the feelings of a friend in that group, like pretty badly. And then they ended up talking it out and they're on mutual terms now, but it took like a good year or two for them to kind of like communicate again and kind of be like at least mutual with each other. And now enough that if I can invite them back to like one of my parties if I want to have a party or something. But I was at a con and I like competed, I participated and did all this stuff. And apparently I was told that they like talk shit about it when I wasn't around. And I was like I didn't even know that. I don't even remember what they specifically said, but apparently they were pretty passive aggressive and just like not very positive about like my cosplay and that whole experience. I didn't learn about that till months after the event was kind of over. But I still communicate with them and I've like talked to them about it. I'm like, yo, this is like kind of a thing that I heard. Like, what was that about? And they were just kind of like, well, I didn't think it looked very good. And I was like, I was aware that it wasn't very good, but you didn't need to talk shit about it to our other friend. You could have just been like, Felicity, Felicity, what? Like,
Or
what?
why even say anything?
That too. It's like,
Like, what is that benefit if you don't think it like?
I don't know. That's, I guess, one thing I've never figured out. I don't understand why people will say things or they'll do things, I suppose, when it's just kind of destructive and negative. Like, there's no positive to it. I don't, like, I guess they feel positive about it inside. Like, they feel better about themselves. I'm not entirely sure. It's kind of weird. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have an answer to that still, because there's some things that I hear that people do, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, why? Why would you do that? I'm like,
When you say you like in reference to boundaries, what is it that you struggle with? Because it sounds like you have good boundaries with OnlyFans. Like it sounds like you have these set lines that you don't let people cross. So when you say like, but you have boundary issues, like what is that? Is that more in your personal relationships?
yeah, in like
Okay.
personal relationships, platonic, and I used to have a lot of like boundary issues romantically, but like that I had to draw because as someone I interact with like almost every fucking day. Eventually took like 2 years, 2.5 years for me to be like, no, like this is enough. Like I'm clearly not happy. I'm clearly drained. I'm clearly like how you can only have so many signs before you're like, all right. And like me and my partner now are back together again, but at that time, there was a lot of things that were going on that I'm like, I'm not happy anymore. So why am I here? And I had expressed it to him multiple times, many of times actually, and I'm like, listen, if at this point I'm not having my needs met, and this is someone I interact with on a daily basis, in comparison to someone who I'm personally and platonically involved with, it's like you don't see them. For me, I don't see them super duper often, but you know, it's like romantically, I learned what my standards were. I'm like, this is what I need, this is what I want. If you can't achieve it, we don't date again. Period. I'm like, you need to go to therapy. You need to be able to talk to someone about your mental health. I'm like, because it's clearly like debilitating you, and I can't help you, but I can't watch it anymore. And I've tried, and I'm like, I'm not Bob the Builder. I can't fix everything. Like, I try to, and it's clear that, like, you're not going to group therapy, you're not going to therapy, you're not doing any of these things. So it was at the point where I'm like, I'm going to have to draw a boundary. There's nothing I can do. We don't go out and we don't do anything. It's time to cut it off until you have a change of lifestyle and you start to take care of yourself and love yourself. Because, like, I'm not loving myself and not respecting myself by staying here. And platonically, it's a little harder because I don't see them all the time. I don't interact with them every single day. I don't see them every single day. I see them like my most closest friends I see once a week. Maybe like 1.5 weeks. I'll see them like once every 1.5 weeks. And most of the time I'll be like, hey guys, want to go to the bar? Hey guys, want to go throw a party? Like I'll try to get them all in one group so we can all touch base at the same time. Because I'm like, I just...
Two birds with one stone.
More like 5 birds
Yeah.
with one stone. I'm like, let's all throw a party. And then there's ones that, like, don't want to interact with other ones. So I'm like, all right, I'll go hang out with them one weekend. Or, you know, I'll go out to breakfast or brunch or whatever. Like, I'll try to touch base with them. Like, I have one friend, and I love him dearly. His name is Ryan Tanuma. And I see him not frequently. But when I do, we both have a very mutual agreement that, like, we don't see each other, but we are 100% okay with that, and it does not affect our relationship platonically. That's like, I'll pop by and be like, hey, you want to go brunch? He's like, yeah, okay, when? This is when I don't work. I'm like, cool. This is when I don't work, so let's go then. We'll go out to brunch, we'll talk shit. I'll update him real quick on my life, he'll update me real quick on his life, and then he's like, all right, I'll see you in a couple months. I'm like, all right, bye. That's the whole interaction. And it's lovely because
Those
I'm
are
like,
some of the best friendships.
I know if anything happens or if anything whack happens, like, I know I can depend on him and I hope he can feel the same about me, but it's like those type of interactions. And that's how it is with most of my very close friends. Like, I apologize sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry that I haven't seen you in a while. And they're like, oh, we know you're busy. Like, they know my lifestyle. They know I travel to see my partner. My partner is in Mountain View right now. I'll go spend a weekend with, like, him. They know that I try to do burlesque, which is a whole different, like, category of time. It's like, talk about a part-time job. That is a part-time job sometimes. It's like, between that, my job tires me. There's days where I can't see people and I need to be alone. Because it's just, I'm tired. Like, I'm exhausted. So, working with the mentally ill is very draining sometimes. It's very fulfilling, but it's very draining at the same time.
What is it that you do?
So I'm a mental health case manager. I will take a Caro. Wait, what's the browner looking thing?
pineapple cider. We've got Angry Orchard.
I'll try the pineapple cider.
Okay,
I'm not a
good choice.
pineapple fan, but I'm like
They're so
down.
good. These are some of my favorite.
I don't think I've ever had this before. Wow, that is actually pretty good.
Yeah?
I'm pretty impressed. I don't like pineapple.
Okay.
So this is actually very
that's got the seal
impressive.
of approval. So mental health, what do you do with mental health?
So for mental health, so I worked as a little bit of history for 3.5 years. I was a mental health worker. So I had a client population of 20, up max about 20. Most of the time, I guess like the average would be about 18 clients at a time. I'd spend like 8 hours a day with them. You just monitor them, monitor their behavior, you talk to them, kind of counsel them through kind of like a peer support kind of thing. You support them through their life, you help them with their ADLs, which is assisted daily living skills. It's cooking, cleaning, self-care, showering, hygiene, things like that. So recently I switched jobs and now I'm a mental health case manager. So what I do is like clients who, it's like cranking it up a notch. So it's like clients if they're like homeless, if they're looking for mental health services, or they need someone to support them when they go out and do these things. I'm more of like a one-on-one compared to like 18 at once. And a lot of them are addicted to drugs. A lot of my clients have struggled drug issues, and that causes a lot of like mental health signs and symptoms. We're talking depression, anxiety, all these things. And, I have to support them through that. I have to be able to emotionally support them, kind of like, because after they come down off of a high, a very common thing I've noticed, I've only been at this job for about 3 months now. I think about 3 months now. I started in July. Yeah, 3 months. They feel bad. Like, they come down off of a high, and people have a really negative stigma towards people who are addicted to drugs, and they feel awful. Like, they're like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did these things. And I'm like, hey, don't feel so bad about it. Like, the road to recovery is really hard. Because a lot of them are trying to, like, come off. But, when, unfortunately, in a lot of these communities that they live in, you're bundling a whole bunch of mentally ill people together, and some of those mentally ill people, or that have mental illnesses, or they're low income or whatever, some of them sell drugs, so it's like right there in front of their face, and it's hard to say no all the time. So rather they're going through an anxiety attack, or if they're about to be homeless, or they're looking to move, like, I support them through the paperwork, I support them emotionally through the process, because it is so tiring. I've come to realize that helping people get housed is possible, but it is a lot of effort. Like, being poor is so hard. Being poor is horribly hard. Like, the process to get Social Security disability is so long, and most of the time people get denied. When they have, like, plenty or enough proof that they should be getting Social Security disability, they're very, like, chronically mentally ill, paired with like a physical disability. So it's just fucking wild, and the paperwork is like stacked. It's fucking thick. And I'm like, there's not like a simple process to be able to go through any of it. And like, what I mean by like poor people being poor is hard. It's like applying for anything or doing anything to get benefits. Like, it's fucking awful. Like, that's what I'm here for. I'm supposed to be here to help them go through that paperwork and go through these things, but not everybody has a caseworker that goes and calls them every week and goes, hey buddy, how you doing? Do you need me to come by this week to come and help you? Like, I have a homeless client who, like, has been homeless for like 1.5 years in, well, I can't say his location, but he's been homeless for 1.5 years, and he's like vibing, super friendly, super good client. I really, really appreciate them. They're lovely. And today they had an interview for like a home share situation, getting roomed in a home. But the day before they were freaking out and almost bailed on their interview altogether, saying they're going to move to Alaska because they're like, I'm dirty, I look bad, all these things, even though in their situation there's like nothing they can do about it, but they're diagnosed with depression, they're diagnosed with anxiety. So you're looking at all these things piled on top of like them being homeless and having low self-esteem. So managed to talk them out of it, thank God, because like today went super, super well and it went really fine. I took them out to food afterwards because I'm like, look, I'm proud of you. You did it. Like, this was a lot, but you fucking did it. Like, you're gonna get a home, a shower, all these things, you'll be able to have therapy in like a comfortable environment because like the homeless camps around here are wild. They are an environment. They are whole communities. Like, people think being homeless is like shitty. Some people don't want to be housed. Like, they have built like whole communities in our woods off of the highways, and they're vibing. They're having the time of their life. Some of them are doing drugs. Some of them are vibing, but they have like whole little houses and little cooking areas and like little communities within each other. It's fucking nuts. So that's kind of what I do.
Are you going out and actively finding clients, or are they coming to you?
I am not. That is not what I do. I was in the beginning kind of going out shadowing the programs because we have programs that do that. So they go out and they talk to the homeless people and they're like, listen, hey, or we don't like to call them homeless. They're, what was the terminology for it?
Unhoused.
Unhoused or some houseless? I think it's houseless.
What's the difference? See, I've heard people say that and I always laugh because it's like, what is the difference between homeless and...
There's a difference between a house and a home. It's like this phrase, the home is where the heart is.
Isn't that like a potato thing?
Kind of like a potato thing. So it's just like, for some of these people, the woods living in these places are their home. They don't have a house, but this is their home. This is a place where they go. They're comfortable where they are.
But you're not actively going out and finding them.
No, that's like a totally different program. I've gone a few times though, and it's like bananas out there. It's wild. I don't know if I have any like going out there. One dude that we met, it was like 2-3 weeks ago or something like that. I kind of went out to support that program because I'm with mental health. So specifically with behavioral health, mental health. So that's what I do. I help people get connected with like mental health things. I'm like, do you experience these signs and symptoms of depression? Do you experience these signs and symptoms with anxiety? Like, are these things that you experience? And then you can get them into the system. And if they want from that point to get connected to resources, they can. And that in itself is like a whole different scenario. But some of these encampments, it's like, it's really, really weird. So they're like off of like really very, very, very like narrow ravines, and then at the bottom there will be like 7 tents, 5 tents, and these people just like live there, and they'll have like a communal cooking place in the middle, and then they have like, they've made like makeshift mattresses, and like the houses are rainproof, they're waterproof, they'll keep in heat, and like it's just incredible. Like, I don't know, I feel like my brain got broken when I kind of like went out there and I was like, wow. Like, I noticed that I had internal stigmas that I didn't notice, like, stereotypes. I also had a stereotype. I'm like, why isn't America housing the homeless? Kind of shit like that. Or the veterans. I used to have, like, that kind of stereotype. I'm like, America's terrible. Why don't we, like, help our veterans? But in Humboldt County, the process and opportunities for, like, homeless veterans is actually, like, pretty high. Like, unfortunately, we're like really overrun with people. Like, there are a lot of people who need help. There are a lot of people who need resources, and our county is broke. We are not a very well-funded county, unfortunately. We can tell that in our fucking school systems. Like, barely have any money in the school systems. I don't know if you saw that pie chart last year when they were cutting funding, I think, for the EPD or the police department, but they showed how much money went to, like, school districts, mental health, and all these places. And it was very, very uncomfortable to see those numbers, I will say, because it's like what I go out and do, I'm like dealing with people head on. Some of my clients are not exactly the most friendly when they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And like, just recently, my clinician that I work with had an issue similar to that, where the dude was on some type of like drug and he was just bugging out and he was not the most friendly, and it got very uncomfortable very fast, and my clinician had to leave because it was not safe for him to be there anymore. And it's like, we're not cops. Like, we're mental health workers. We're trained and educated to de-escalate in these situations or remove ourselves out of these situations, but it's like, we don't have a lot of money for trainings. We don't have a lot of money to do any of these things right now. So it's just really rough, and we don't have enough people to like supply the demand of the amount of people who need assistance. And some of the people are fucking lovely. Like, just, they really want help. They really, really want mental health help. They want help. They want to talk to a therapist. They want to go talk to an SUD counselor. Like, they want all these things. And it's like batshit wild to me because we just don't, I feel like we don't have that supply and demand for that.
Do
many
most of
people.
them want help? Or is that like the minority opinion?
No, that's like a lot of them want help. And like, unfortunately, some of the people who can help aren't the best. Unfortunately, like, they're just
not well trained.
Yeah, or they have very, very old-fashioned viewpoints. Like, there is a drug or a substance use disorder counselor that I was kind of told through the grapevine, that has a very like 12-step based mindset, and she, like, clients have walked out during their sessions because she's just like, it's sobriety or nothing. Like, it's abstinence or nothing. Like, you don't get the opportunity to like relapse and work from that. Like, it's like they would get mad at the clients about it, apparently, like when they would relapse, and like, that's not the mindset you should be going into it. Like, and some people are still super stuck in the mental health mindset. Like, they're like, depression's a choice. Like, like, some people genuinely think that. They're like, just get over it, you know? Like, anxiety, like, you're just overreacting. Like, I think all of us at one point have heard that statement. I know I've heard that statement at one point or another when I'm, like, really not feeling it. And unfortunately, there's just people out there who have degrees, who have a position of power where they can be like that. On the counter end, though, there are wonderful people who are very well trained and super empathetic, who work with people, some of the people that I work with, and they're very happy. But those people also get like hella overworked. So, just kind of how that goes.
Are most of your clients living on the street then?
No, actually, a lot of my, well, let me think about that. No, I think about like 10 to 15% of my clients are on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too big of an amount.
So majority are
like
have
housed.
a house somewhere.
Yeah, they're housed somewhere, and they're just like, most of them are just kind of searching for like a therapist to help with like a drug addiction or an alcohol
How do they
addiction.
find you?
They don't really find me. I get referred to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get sent referrals, I get sent things like that, and then what happens is I go out and I meet them, talk to them. I'm like, okay, what can I help you with? And some of them don't really need anything. Some of them are like, if I need something, I'll call you, and I trust that they will. Some of them are very, very, very in need. Like, most of my homeless ones obviously are very in need. And then some of my clients just need help getting services. Some of my clients, depending on their needs, need help going out in public because they have such bad social anxiety. They need help going into the store. They need help doing things like that. Like, they need support in case they get overwhelmed. Like, they need someone there. So it really, really varies, to be honest. Like, some people are just like, I see them once or twice a week. Some of them I'll pop in and see them like once a month. Check in, be like, how are you doing? Things like that. So,
do you just act as like a support network, or do you try to help them overcome these challenges as well?
I'll help them overcome the challenges because, like, I'm educated and that's what I do. Like, for example, with the one client that tried to like bail on his interview, I was like, listen, I'm like, we need to do some positive affirmation before I try to reschedule, because we had one, we were supposed to go to the interview yesterday, and he got really overwhelmed and was gonna bail. But yeah, I'm like, I don't mind talking to the person, the program we were trying to go through and reschedule all this stuff, but like, we gotta focus on you. Like, you need to think about your positive characteristics, and we're going to do that together before I hang up the phone and go and do this. So we talked, and, you know, I do things like that. Like, there's, like, other therapy tactics that you can use to kind of help people get through what they're going through. A lot of it's just kind of like empathy and comfort and understanding where a client's coming from. Because a lot of people come from really traumatic backgrounds, so validating how they feel in certain moments is really important. You can kind of apply that to everybody, though. Kind of validating people's feelings in any emotional moment is pretty important. Because you don't, I mean, you can know, but you don't know where someone comes from or what their background is. Some of these clients' backgrounds are really, really dark. So, like, helping someone work through an anxiety trigger is very difficult. And I'm like, you know, a lot of time I'm like, hey, when's the next time you get to talk to your therapist? You know, what are things, a lot of them are like, what are things that they've told you to do when you feel these way? Like, can I do them with you? Things like that. So.
Are a lot of them on medication?
I would say quite a few of them are on meds, yeah, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them aren't. Some of them don't believe in medication and don't want to be on them. Some of them were on medication and don't want to anymore because they don't think it helps them or it makes them worse. So, because sometimes meds do make you feel out of it. And that's why also with clients, I'm like, hey, if you don't feel like this med is doing it for you, we got to talk to your physician. Like, we got to talk to them. I'll represent you because, like, if you're not feeling it, you should tell somebody. So they can either change it, lower it, heighten it, whatever it is you feel like you need to do. So, because a lot of them, you know, there's stereotypes and stigmas towards the mentally ill. They get looked over, they get pushed over, they get all these things. So that's why I'll sometimes go in there with them and help represent them and communicate their feelings so that doesn't happen. Because it happens a lot, unfortunately. Like, and a lot of them get too timid to kind of talk about it because they're like, oh, they're not going to listen to me anyways. So that's unfortunately kind of how that goes. The mental health world is a very interesting place. As I drink.
What is the biggest challenge you've noticed? Is it just getting resources available for these people?
Resources? Okay. In other counties, resources are much more readily available. Humboldt County's resources are thankfully there in some ways and then limited in others. So, like, it's very situational for some. Like finding housing and low income housing is kind of limited. There's a lot of options, but there's a lot of low income because we're a very poor county. A lot of poor people here. It's kind of how that happens. You know, it's hard to get housed. Hard to find a place that you can pay rent, especially if you only get like $1,000 a month. Where the fuck are you gonna go with $1,000 a month? So it's like I said, but there's like programs that help, like the food bank. Food for People's lovely. Food banks that help people. You can go places and clothe clients. Like, we have places we can go for that. Places you can get free hygiene stuff for clients if they're running out of hygiene stuff. And, you know, if it's in their care plan, I can take them if they need to go places. But there's also positions in my job that can go transport them if they need to. So, and, what's it called? There's actually a thing, this is really cool, and I didn't know this was a thing, but, at some of the community centers and, like, I think they're community centers, they're given out for people who specifically are in low income or deal with mental illness or, like, are homeless. They give them free, like, farmer bucks to, like, the farmer market. So they get, like, a free...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they get, like, a free $25 to the farmer market, like, the farmer's market. Like, I was like, the little coins and the little cash cards. And I'm like, that is the coolest shit I have ever seen in a long time. That was the coolest thing. Like, I had a client, he's like, oh, can we go to the farmer's market when we go back in from town? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, do you have money? And he's like, oh, I got these weird farmer dollars. And I'm like, what? And I looked at them, I'm like, whoever just gave you, like, free money, like, that's completely free money. Like, you can use it at any of the farmers markets in any of Arcadia, Eureka, Fortuna. Like, you could have used them at any of them. So I was pretty, like, amazed. So we have a very giving community. It's just, unfortunately, in some ways, it also lacks. So I feel like we also have a very empathetic mental health community, like with the workers and things like that. But unfortunately, there's also people who, it's like a pretty interesting dichotomy. You have the black and you have the white. Like, it's people who are very bad at what they do, very good at what they do. So it's very strange. Like, my previous place of work was a very interesting example of, I feel like, a weird middle ground of good mental health service and really shitty mental health service. It's one of the reasons I really wanted to leave. So, and I did.
Do you feel like it's getting better here locally?
Better? Unfortunately, I don't know if I would say it's getting better. Like, good God. The other day I went to the gas station to fill up my car. And I got approached by some woman, clearly under the influence of something, or at least in a psychotic state of some sort. She comes up to me, like, this far away from me. She's like, give me all your money. Like, trying to mug me at the gas station.
Damn.
I was like, holy fuck, what? Okay, first of all, I'm, like, overwhelmed, because this woman's, like, this far from me, and she's shorter than me. I'm like, lady, you're in my titties. This is really weird for me. And I'm like, confused, and she's clearly not having it. She was punching fences before. I'm like, oh my God.
Shit.
And I was on the job. So I'm like in a county car with my little badge, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't, like, what if this woman hits me? Like, I can't scrap with this lady right now. I'm like, I'm on the job. I'm like, that makes this looks bad. It looks awful. I'm like, do I run? I'm like, the car's open. It's unlocked. I'm like, I can't leave the car. I'm like, okay. So she came up to me, she's like, give me all your money. And I was, so my reaction within all these thoughts is, I was like, 1 space 2, no. And she was like, right now. And I was like, and then I took like 3 steps back, and she just like got confused because I wasn't saying anything and left. And I was like, and then afterwards, I'm like, I don't even have any money, lady. Like, I'm broke as shit.
Yeah, wrong person.
Yeah, go mug someone else. I'm not the one for you. I'm like, but it's things like that. But it's like, honestly, we have just a really bad rampant drug problem here. It's very apparent. It's very, very apparent. And unfortunately, a lot of these people, like, I don't know if I would say it's getting better or worse. I feel like I see, my personal opinion is that it's getting worse. And it's like,
It definitely doesn't feel like it's getting better.
no, unfortunately. Like, God, fuck. Like, my landlord recently where I live just put in, like, a gate. Like, I don't know what it is. There's, like, I live on a 2-story, really shitty green building off of, like, one of the worst places in town to live. Like, is really, really bad. But sometimes the homeless will camp out right underneath this alcove, because the first floor is businesses and, like, a tattoo parlor, or an old tattoo parlor. And they'll just camp there, and it's blocked off from rain, it's blocked off from the wind, and, you know, I didn't really have an issue with them being there too much. I only had a problem when they were kind of, like, disruptive, but my neighbors really had a problem with it. For me, this is my line of work, so I don't mind if they camp there as long as they're respectful and they respect the space, but, you know, they leave it trashed, and that's just kind of how that goes. But, they put up a gate, like a sliding gate door that blocks off just the alcove. Like, it's very interesting. I don't know if something happened that made my landlord do that, or if the neighbors complained enough, but, yeah, it was not good. Oh, now I remember, yeah, my neighbor told me that they tried to cause a fire down there for something. They were trying to cook something, yeah. And I was like,
that'll do it.
Yeah. So, and I wonder if it happened again, because I woke up the other night. It's actually a funny little tangent. I woke up the other night. It was like 3 a.m. And I'm like, it smells like it's burning.
Oh,
I'm like,
no.
I like woke up and I was like, that's weird. So I go out in my living room. I'm looking around my living room. I'm like, okay, did I leave something, like, is something catching on fire? I mean, it's an old building. I don't fucking know. So I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I don't see anything. You know, I sniff my cat. I'm like, okay, I don't see anything. I don't notice anything. Didn't even fucking think about the people camping beneath me, and that my window is right above them. So I'm like, it smells like burnt toast. I'm like, hopefully I'm not having, like, a stroke. But, like, I'm assuming that they must have did it again, because literally not 1 to 2 days after that gate was, like, bolted into the wall, blocking off that from anybody going and camping from there again. So, and, like, oh God, it's weird how you get people in the system. Like, some people get most people get arrested. They get arrested or incarcerated for something, and then they're offered services, or you're homeless, and one of the people from the program reaches out to you and they get you in the system, and then from there you kind of, you go where you go. You either participate or you don't. Some people don't want to participate, and that's just kind of how that happens. And a lot of people are under, like, such heavy drug influence that you can't really, like, communicate with them when they're high, because they're very clearly on drugs. Like, I had a lady, that was fucking crazy. I was, like, changing my brake light. I was wearing a dress. And I was, like, changing my brake light, and there's a wind. And my neighbor pulled up behind me, and I flashed on my butt on accident because the wind was blowing. I was like, I gotta go upstairs before he talks to me. So I, like, grabbed something out of my car, and I, like, go upstairs, and I'm like, fuck, I forgot my bang in my car. I need to go back into my car and grab my energy drink. I'm tired. So I, like, try to go back down the stairs, and my neighbor runs in through the front door and slams it closed. And I was like, the fuck is going on? And someone starts pounding on the glass, like, so it's like a wooden door, and then there's like a little slit of glass at the top, and someone just starts pounding, and I saw a woman across the street before yelling at a car, and I thought it was like a literal, just like a partner dispute problem, and she was pissed. Apparently she came across the street, my neighbor got out of the car, and she was like, what are you looking at, pervert? And he, like, didn't acknowledge her and was, like, trying to ignore her, and she's like, if you touch me, I'm gonna hurt you. I have a knife. And she reached in her purse.
Oh, damn.
And she started walking towards my neighbor. So my neighbor sprinted into our front door and slammed it. And that's when I was coming down the fucking stairs. And I'm like, what is happening? So she's slamming, cussing him out. And I'm like, what did you do? Did anything happen? He's like, I did not talk to this woman. I barely made eye contact with this lady. And she's, like, screaming and hollering in front of our apartment. And then my other neighbor, who's a security guard, comes out, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, apparently a woman tried to stab our neighbor, and now she's, like, running around the streets. He's like, I love this shit. Sprints down my stairs, opens my front door, and starts chasing the woman up the street. And I'm like,
oh, God.
Why, my other neighbor's calling the police, and I'm just like, if I have to de-escalate it, like, if I have to go on the job, like, I will, but I don't want to. And eventually she got, like arrested by the cops up the street a ways, and, like, she got, like, arrested. Like, they detained that lady, and I'm pretty sure she was, like, probably mentally ill and was just not having a good time. She could have been suffering from delusions, any of those things, because, like, it was very, like, a lot of paranoia, it sounded like, and from my experience, I'm like, okay, she didn't seem like she was on anything in particular, but I was like, she could have been experiencing, like, extreme paranoia, and that comes with fear, and then
that's the problem.
one thing led to
when
another.
You mix drugs into these situations, they can be very dangerous. Very dangerous.
It is not good. Most of the time, pattern goes like this. My client's childhood's been awful, which is, they usually, I feel so bad. Most of the time it's like they started in a shitty situation. Terribly shitty, like beyond anything you could ever fucking think of. They grow up, and for them, they're just learning how to live in a world where shit has been awful. And for some people, it's like chemically produced serotonin and drugs, dude. It's like, that's why I don't judge it. It's like, I get it. You were doing what you needed to do to survive and try to at least enjoy the existence to the best way you can. Because a lot of people come out of their childhood trauma with all sorts of fucking problems that catch up to you. And that's just the reality. Like, you have to go and talk to someone about the experiences you've had. Because, like, it can cause a whole bunch of fucking problems in your future. Like, we're talking, like, BPD, you can develop mental illnesses, like, especially if you've had a very abusive physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse, like, can cause a lot of, like, even if in the moment you're like, you think you're vibing, when you hit your 20s, dude, fuck. That shit will come, and it will
That's when it kicks in, right?
Yeah, it'll kick you straight in the cock. And next thing you know, you're like, why am I having an anxiety attack? It's like, bruh, it's not good. So you have to go, like, address it. And, like, some people go on meds. Like, some people take meds for anxiety or anything like that. Like, there's, like, there's solutions, but it needs to be addressed. So for some of these people, like, some people grow up around drugs, So for them, this has been, like, their whole life. When it's been your whole life, it's hard to just, like, lurch yourself out of it. Like, we hear all these wonderful hero stories of people who, they're like, I grew up in a terrible situation, and now I'm great, and I had an awful upbringing, and like it's great to hear them. I am so proud of people who can take control of their life and try to make something better out of it. Like, I have to give myself credit sometimes, or I'll forget because I have an awful memory. Fun fact, terrible memory, probably from things I've gone through. But like, I look back at what I was going through when I was younger, and I'm like, dude, I need to remember that, you know, when I graduated high school, I fucking moved out of my house. The day I graduated, I like walked down that little red thingy at Eureka High, walked out of that bitch, and I was like, all right, we're never going home again. Because legally I was not bound to anything anymore. So I'm like, all right, moved in with my best friend, lived with her for like a year and a half or something, I don't remember. Went to college. That fucking went terribly on the college factor, but like, I thought I could do a full-time job in college at the same time. Learned that very fast, that was not the
Very
reality. Very fucking hard. And I was like, okay, well, we can't do that. Literally wasn't sleeping. Like, I was working over 40 hours a week when I first, like, got my first job working as a mental health worker back in, like, 2000. Fuck, what was it, 2018, 2019? I think 2018 of October. But worked over 40 hours a week. I was working some knock shifts. Like, I was not sleeping, trying to go to college. And, like, fucking flunked college, like, that part of college. And that's when I was like, okay, maybe, like, full-time college and full-time school was, like, not a thing that I could accomplish. But, you know, I got out. Before that, though, I was, like, mowing lawns. I was helping people, like, flip houses with my friend's family, like, to get money to pay rent to my best friend's mom, who I was, you know, I was living in their house. I shared a room with my best friend, but, like, you know, I still had to pay rent. It wasn't very much, but, like, mowing lawns and doing all these things, like, you know, I wasn't exactly the richest person alive. So when I got a job and I was working a bunch of, like, overtime, you know, made a bunch of fucking money because I was working overtime. It was my first job, so of course I blew all the money because I don't understand the concept of fucking money. So, like, I'm like, wow, $1,000. I'm like, wow. It's like,
It's all made up.
it's all, like, it's so bad. I wish someone taught me. Like, I think it's so important to teach your kids the concept of money so that when they go get a job, you're like, all right,
Incredibly
need
important.
to save money. You need to take some of that money and put it in an account and forget it exists. Like, wish someone told me that, because, like, I'm only paying like $200 in rent at the time, and I'm making, like, overtime cash, so it's like over 1K every 2 weeks. So I'm like, look back and I'm like, wow, the joys of not growing up with the concept of cash. So, and, you know, after that point, I moved out of my best friend's house, moved into my first apartment by myself. My grandpa kind of helped me, but not money-wise, he just helped me move. But, like, you know, I got my first place, and that was completely, I hadn't talked to my parents in, 6 months to a year. Did not communicate with anybody at all. Communicate with my grandpa, that was it. Because with my grandfather, it was weird. We were not really close when I was, like, in high school. Like, we barely talked. Like, my grandpa's one of those dudes who it's like, he just doesn't talk. He's a silent man. He gives you one-word answers sometimes. But when I graduated and, like, I was working a job, like, one day out of the week, he would pick me up and take me to work. Because, like, when I worked AMs, I had to be there at 6:45 in the morning. So, for example, I lived on 10th and O Street. 10th and O Street. So that's, like, all the way by, like, the Dutch Bros Burger King area up at near the highway exit going, like, north. That's where I was living at the time. My fucking job was on the corner of Wabash and C. So that's, like, 1.5 miles. So I would walk that every morning. Probably for a year did I walk that every morning in the pitch dark. It was actually the highlight of my day, weirdly enough, but other than thinking, like, oh, I could get kidnapped or stabbed, but, like, it was nice, you know, it's peaceful, you're listening to your tunes, you're walking, and you're just, like, having a nice time, but, like, I didn't have a car at the time, so, like, I just need to remember where the fuck I came from and where I'm at right now, so...
It's important to do that.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, I get down in the dumps about things, and I'm like... what am I doing? Like, I feel like I should be further. And, like, I'll tell my partner that sometimes. I'm like, dude, I feel like I should be further. And my partner's a prime example of someone who, like, even though my partner, like, he does computer, he graduated, like, summa cum laude or something like that. I don't know, that really high grade point average bullshit of HSU with a computer science degree. And now he's, like, a programmer down in the Bay Area right now. He makes, like, 80 to 90K a fucking year. And at one point, I remember, like, a year ago or a year and a half ago, he was doing DoorDash because he lived with me at the time. And he was like, dude, what am I doing? And I'm like, you just need to give it time. You know, you just freshly graduated. And I remember, like, it's funny because I'll hype people up like that. But when I feel like shit, I can't, like, hype myself up to that. So even though I don't think, like, my life is terrible or anything like that, like, I have to acknowledge, like, I got a dream job, even if it's fucking hard for me. Like, I got the job I at least wanted to achieve and hold for some time before I go back to college. So, did ended up graduating college with my associate's degree.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was fucking
Congratulations.
great. Yeah, that was, like, last December. But I will say, if it was not for my partner, Alvin, like, wouldn't have fucking happened. When you date someone who is so academically, like, incredible, like, fucking just insanely incredible, it really was like, because, like, I knew I could do things, I just didn't have the effort or energy to do them. Like, you're just like, there's other things I could be doing other than schoolwork, you know. But, like, if he got all A's, like, he graduated with above a 4.0 or nearly a 4.0 and was, like, on the honors and shit like that, I'm like, well, we gotta, like, actually apply ourselves. So yeah, I was managed to graduate with my AA, and it was like, it was just like a motivation to do it once I started, like, dating him. So I was like, yeah, you know, I forget that too sometimes. I forget a lot of things. They just kind
Well, it's easy to get sidetracked, you know, and start focusing on the things that aren't going well, or the things that are weighing you down, and then soon that's all you see and you get consumed by that.
Oh yeah, I feel like negative things are definitely heavier and stickier than the positive. Holy fuck. Definitely heavier and stickier. Takes like 2 negative things compared to like 10 positive things to be able to, like, balance themselves out.
Yeah.
So,
And even then it's hard to appreciate the positive things.
yeah, it's like, fuck, you know, like, for you, I assume it's like you have the podcast. Like, this is a wonderful thing. I listened to your naughty podcast, and that was, I love her.
She was so cool.
I love her.
She was so cool.
She's
oh my god,
fucking fantastic.
Shout out to Naughty. She was amazing. I had such a great time talking with her.
Gosh, so I've gone to Fet Night, right? I've been there a couple of times. You know,
no shit.
Yeah, one of the
so you know her, like, in real life.
Oh, yeah, no, me and Naughty
shit.
are homies. But, like, it was so funny when I was listening. I'm just like, oh, that's Naughty for you. It's funny, I used to be in a burlesque troupe, and I used to...
It was Va Va Voom, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. It's a troupe that shall not be named, and I'm not going to give them credit on
okay.
this podcast about
Okay, well, shout out to Va Va Voom, because I had Jezza, Belladonna, and Lila Venita.
I saw that one, too.
So cool. They were amazing, too.
Burlesque is a wonderful fucking... I love... Dragon burlesque makes me very, very happy, and I don't know where the fuck I'd be without those two things. And the people I've met... Because it's funny, one of the doms that works for Fet Night used to be in an old troupe I was in, and she is... Holy shit, she is, like, 6'1". Her hair is, like, an entire, like, curl fest, and she is one of the most intimidating but hot women I've ever seen. It's like, I'm like, I don't know if I want you to, like, spit in my mouth, or I'm afraid you're gonna slap me. I'm like, it's crazy. And she's, like, one of the doms who does the spankings, and she's a professional, like, dominatrix and things like that. And she is an incredible woman. I'm so sad I haven't been able to see her recently, but she can't go out until her partner gets their booster shot for COVID. So it's been a while since I've seen them, and they smoke so much weed. So much weed. I've never seen someone smoke that much in their life. I'm like, how do you live? Like, I feel like
how are you still alive?
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like there's more times. I feel like it's rarer for me to see them not smoking than it is for me to see them smoking. Because it's like every time I come over, anytime I see them, they're just lighting up a joint, lighting up a blunt. And it's just normal. It's the norm. I'm like, all right. And they're so loving. And because, like, I don't smoke weed anymore. It's been a while now since I smoked weed. And, you know, they've never pressured me. They're like, it's okay, baby. You don't need to do anything. I'm like... it's a whole environment up in there. But like, yeah, I love them. They're wonderful. Fet Night is a wonderful event that's taking place. It's super safe, super consensual, and it's like a big old party, you know?
That's what it
So
sounded like. That's
it's
what
a
I got
big
from it.
fucking party and it's fun. It's so fun and it's ridiculous, but like they'll hold burlesque shows there sometimes too. Like I've performed there for burlesque before. So Naughty's lovely, you know. I've consulted her about hosting things because eventually I want to like throw my own show eventually here in Humboldt. So
Oh, that'd be cool.
yeah, since like Humboldt has like no nightclub scene,
Yeah, there's nothing here.
zero. So like the whole goal is to throw like one big ass fucking nightclub show. So it would be like like an hour or two of like nightclub dancing. We're talking like EDM music, club music, shit like that. And then it would be like a burlesque show that's centered around or a cabaret. So we're looking at drag, burlesque, whatever, whoever kind of applies with like club music, techno music, EDM because I like that's my shtick. Like EDM music is what I love. That's what I listen to most of the time. And like you get a lot of crazy shit from like EDM club music remixes and shit like that. Like some of the drag queen music I listen to that from like famous drag queens have produced performances from, I'm just like, this shit slaps. I'm like, this is the best shit I've ever heard. So that'll probably be coming sometime in 2022 if I can land a venue. So venues are hard to come by around here though.
Yeah, I bet, especially with everything going on.
COVID and just like, unfortunately, a lot of people are problematic in this area that people don't want to work with. So it's a lot of like weird, it's like, I guess you could call it drama in this area to a degree. It's not really drama, like they're genuine problems that have been addressed and are
Problems
still
like what?
like people doing shitty things and not taking accountability. So like there's a person who books at a venue that I know that I didn't really know the whole tea about the situation, but he was pretty he like apparently assaulted somebody in the burlesque community or something like that, and like was apparently very misogynistic to women and did a bunch of shit. And I was like, didn't know that until like maybe a month or two ago or something like that. I had no idea because I was like, oh, what's wrong with this like place? And then they're like, the person who books events for that is blah 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 blah. And I'm like, good to know. Like, that's very good to know. And I heard there's a lot of problems with one of the common things I've heard, and like I hate to say them by name, but I mean that's kind of like everybody kind of knows about it. I don't know if it's really been discussed, but one of the things is like the Arcada Theater Lounge. Beautiful venue. I mean, it is gorgeous. Like, but what's it called? They during the Black Lives Matter movement, they were very like pro cop and we're doing a fundraiser for the EPD, and that rubbed people the wrong way, like big time, and rightfully so during that period of time, and like still during this period of time because Black lives still matter. So that was a thing, and then apparently one of the owners said something very homophobic, and I never got the details of that, but it's always like a trickle of the grapevine situation where I don't see the actual things, but these are things multiple people tell me, and like one thing is like you'll notice what venues don't have burlesque shows, what venues don't have drag shows, because these communities are very like inclusive, and we want to respect these groups of people that have like been oppressed and have had issues, and we want to be able to provide a space for them to feel safe and to feel comfortable. And you'll notice the venues that have been problematic, we don't go to them. We don't go to work with them because they've been problematic. And unless they've like fixed that behavior and been held accountable for those things, like, you know, you don't have a reason to work with them anymore. So that's just kind of how it goes. Plus there's like a weird turf thing, but it's a whole different conversation. So certain troops and certain groups have certain areas where they perform. Like one certain troop that I'm not going to mention is at Redwood Curtain Theater. That's specifically their theater, and they perform in that theater. Vava Voom has the what the fuck is that theater called? I am spacing it right now. It's the one that's off of like right across from Ichiban. I thought is the one they perform in the most.
Oh, That's not the Eureka
Isn't it the
Theater.
Eureka
Is that what
Theater?
it's called?
You
I know what you're
interviewed
talking about.
Lila,
Yeah,
dog.
I
You
know,
should
but it
know
was so long.
this.
I gotta bring it back on. It's been so long. I know what one you're talking about. It's right by that hotel. Is right up to like a block away.
Yeah, the Eureka Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's the Eureka Theater.
Is
I
it?
think. I
Mm.
think. I could be totally off base with that. But
Yeah,
I know what one you're talking about. Yeah.
I think that's where they're like based at. I'm not 100% sure. But like certain troops have certain areas. The Ragdolls were at Humbrew's, but now they're not anymore. But they were at Humbrew's. That was their space. So like some of the venues when it comes to like the troop wise are already like associated in certain areas. So it's kind of like it's hard. Like Club Triangle, the drag group was at the Jam for a while. And that was a thing, but now the Jam's like under new ownership now, so like Club Triangle's kind of like plus like COVID, so Club Triangle is very like wait until COVID's definitely more contained before they perform again, which is fine. And they're like we're just kind of doing virtual stuff at the moment, and that's kind of come to a halt at the moment. But yeah, and Spectral Drag Productions, Synapsis is moved actually. Synapsis is over across from the AT&T building, that huge one. It's like 3 or 4 floors.
Oh, down off Broadway?
Yeah, it's across from that now. And oh my god, it is so beautiful. Inside it's like really big. It's way bigger than the old one, and like it has like a very classical theater look. So up above it is a bunch of like art, and on the bottom is like a bunch of like art like of a stereotypical theater.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's very beautiful, and I don't think they're booking shows just yet. I'm not sure because of COVID. I'm not entirely positive, but like it is gorgeous in there. But that's where Spectral Drag Productions has been. That's who I work with. You had Ultra on here.
Yep.
Yeah. So Skylin and I talk. You know, Skylin's one of my favorite drag queens. She's lovely. So, and she now I think runs Spectral Drag Productions.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's in charge of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know if I think she still is. I might be wrong, but she's in charge of Spectral Drag Productions. And then there's a new one that's popped up, and I'm not sure what the name is. I think it's just Queer Vibe Bar, and they are at the winery, like Sepatrino Winery over in Arcata, and they've kind of popped up, and they're now kind of producing shows a little bit more. So that's also a new. So we have some things around here, but like I said, COVID's whack as fuck. So nobody's really like actively doing anything. So that's why it's hard for me to be like, I'm gonna produce a nightclub show where everybody comes and gets drunk at parties. So like that's not exactly the thing. So and it's just weird. It's just really weird right now with COVID. I'm like confused.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah, time is all over the place.
I'm like, some people are throwing raves. Some people are like canceling their raves. I'm like,
some people are like not leaving their house, and others are out balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall, like full on in other people's mouths. Balls to the wall. Like, have you seen the bars in Eureka? Oh my god! I'm like, there is nothing COVID friendly about this place. I'm like, that's why actually one reason I don't go out to the bars anymore is I'm like, it's because I work with a vulnerable population. So I'm like, you know what? I don't think going to the bars every weekend is exactly the best idea. So I'm like, well, we can just hit the break for a little bit on that. Because, like, yeah, 707 is popping.
707's always raging.
See everybody
COVID stops at the door. That's the thing. COVID can't breach that barrier. It hits the bouncer and it's like, we're shutting that shit out.
Yep. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, everybody I know and their brother is there. Like, I see everybody I know there. People I haven't talked to in forever.
That's the weirdest thing, right? You go there and it's like, is this our high school reunion? Because it kind of feels like it.
Straight the fuck up. And one thing that's always funny to me, anybody I see that I haven't talked to in a while, they say the same fucking thing every single fucking time. They're like, yeah, wow, I follow you on Instagram. And that statement alone, I'm like, So you see my titties. I was going to say,
is that like a link to the OnlyFans thing?
It's like the link to the OnlyFans there. Like, I post pretty, like, risque, lewd shit. I'm like, okay, so you've seen it all. They're like, yeah, I really support you doing burlesque, which is always so sweet. Like, it's very nice when people are like, I really support you in what you do. And I'm like, that's cool. But then they're like, it's always like, this is the weird comment. Like, As someone who tries to be very body positive, this is like a weird comment to me, and it's supposed to be a compliment, but I kind of find it a little irritating sometimes. They're like, I wish I had as much confidence as you when you go do what you do, and I'm like, it's just a weird comment, like alluding at my figure, and I'm like,
Well, couldn't it be that they're just like impressed that you're comfortable showing off your body regardless of your size? That's how I would
it
take that.
could
Is
be,
like, oh,
yeah.
like you're comfortable showing skin. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're more
It could
conservative. And
be
they're like, oh,
that
I wish I
too.
could felt comfortable, showing skin.
Yeah, it's true. That is
It
true.
could be.
It's
It could be
just
what you're saying. That's when I heard that. I was just thinking. That was my first thought. Was like, oh, like you are more comfortable showing your body. Maybe they're not. But I'm a guy, so what do
I
you
mean,
know? I
it's
don't.
like
I don't
it's
know.
most of the time it's usually alluded to like skinnier women specifically don't get that comment.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's mostly like me who are thicker, bigger, and outside of the like a societal box that people are like, wow, I really wish I had as much confidence as you do to do that or to wear this or blah 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 blah. And it's like I what I mean, it's not confidence exactly. I mean, it is confidence, but it's like that's just my body, dog. Like it should be fine for me to wear these things. Like you shouldn't think that it's very complicated. It's very whack. It's very, very whack in a weird explanation. But like, some people are like, I really want to do drag. Like, that's a common one. I'm very shocked when people are like, I've always thought about being a drag queen. And I'm like, there's nothing stopping you. I'm like, you can be biologically a female and identify as a female and go be a drag queen. I'm like, people think that drag's like man to woman, woman to man. Like, that's not what it is. It's a freedom of expression. Like, you could be biologically female and her biologically male, identify as male, and go be a fucking drag king and do what you want to do. Like you can do whatever you want. Like you can do literally as long as you're not a fucking racist and homophobic or any of those things. Like you can go out and do a bunch of crazy shit. Like people like burlesque, for example, super political. I've seen political acts for burlesque. Fuck, when Trump got elected, I saw some crazy shit. I'm like, people express their feelings and through these types of forms of art. So it's pretty fucking batshit. It's crazy, but it's cool. That's why I've been doing it for like 5 years now, 6 years or something like that. December will be like my 5th or 6th drag birthday.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, with the OnlyFans, I wanted to ask this: Are you worried about people like leaking your content? Is that a thing with customs? Can they, since they own that, could they just release it wherever they want to?
I mean, yeah, if they want to, but like,
Most people don't do that.
no. Plus, I can sue
Oh,
them.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh
I'll
shit.
sue you. It's my legal property.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Does that happen a lot? Do people get sued for that?
People have gotten sued for that, yeah.
Oh
I
shit. I
bet
did not know that was a
gotten fucking
thing.
sued for that. Because there's like, most people are like, hey, if you take my shit and put it anywhere, I'm going to commit legal action against
Yeah.
you. And I'm like, stops a lot of people from taking your shit and trying to. Plus, also, like, most people who are out here making an OnlyFans, it's just like, dude, we don't give a fuck. We just kind of care that you're going to be out here, like, spreading my pussy on the internet or whatever. It's like what in the audacity do you feel like you need to go out and do that? And then now it's like, well, now on top of that, I'm gonna fucking sue you. Like, what
Yeah.
were you thinking? Like, are you fucking dumb? Like, it's so fucking strange. And that's one thing about like customs specifically that's interesting, I guess, is just the fact that if you don't sell it to more than like 1 or 2 people, you know where it fucking came
That's a
from.
great point.
Like,
You know who had access to it.
yeah, it's like, fuck. Oh yeah. One funny custom story. So I was making a custom for someone, and it had to do with like my breasts and my tits, and my cat full on jumped in front of the fucking camera. Like, I'm like in the moment, I'm trying to get this done. It was supposed to be like 30 seconds to like a whole last minute. I'm like right at the last 10 to 15 seconds, and my cat fucking came and just jumped in front of me and just looks me in the face, and I'm just like, I hate this. And then she knocks my phone over when she leaves, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Now I gotta redo the whole thing. I'm like, fuck me, dude. She's such a bitch. She's always in the most inappropriate times inserting herself in situations. Like, I'll be trying to film something, and she just, like, toddles her little fat self onto, like, the camera, and she's like, ah! And I'm like, oh my god, now I gotta redo it all. I'm like, get the fuck out. I'm like, this is not the time.
She just wants to be a part of it.
She wants to have OnlyFans for my cat, I guess. I don't know what that would
That's
even
probably
imply.
a thing. That's probably a thing.
Someone out there probably has one. They just put their cat in a bikini and they're just like,
Just
this
leave
is
it. Live stream it.
Oh my god, they're dancing cat in a bikini or something. I don't know. God. But I love my cat, but yeah, the most inconvenient times does she ruin my customs. I have to redo it. I mean, I could edit it, but that takes more time to just edit it and then do a weird last second. So, the joys of having pets.
How much money are you making from this, if you don't mind me asking?
No, that's fine. It depends. When I was really popping, God. From fans alone, like having a subscription, I made about, cause I only had it up for like a month and a half or something like that. It was like 15 to 20 fans. I charged like $5, $6. So you can kind of do the math. It was like $150, $200. And then
That's pretty good.
yeah, plus it was like, plus the customs probably made like an extra like $200 to $300 or something like that from people ordering customs. And like, most of the time I'll make like an extra $100 to $200 a month just from people just randomly being like, hey, I got extra money, can I have some customs? And I'm like, yeah, what do you want? So it's pretty mutual. I have regulars that just come back and they're like, hey, you open for commission? And I'm like, yep, what do you want?
How frequently are you doing customs?
Not frequently.
Couple times a month?
Yeah, not frequently right now. I haven't had anybody really come back because it's like freshly my OnlyFans has kind of like come to a conclusion again until I decide to pop up shop again another time. But I mean, like, yeah, I was doing it like I'm gonna do like 1 to 2 customs every week, and then not too super frequent like compared to other people who probably do a fuck ton. But yeah, for me that was like, an extra $200-$300 a month.
It's not a bad deal.
Not at all. I was like not complaining. So plus it's like it'd be like scattered sometimes, not like all in one chunk. So like, if it's like nearly payday, but I'm hitting the like teeter to my bank account, it's like an extra $60 is lovely.
Yeah.
Now I can go buy
for 3 minutes of work. Come on.
Yeah, it's like literally that was one of the things. Once you gotten past the fucking like, I don't know. For me, it was like at first I'm like, oh my god, like I'm so nervous. And then I was like, fuck it, whatever. I'm like, let's get it done, get it over with, and send it out. I'm like, I do not give a shit anymore. I'm like, we just gotta get it done. The sooner it's over, the better it is. Because I can just move on with what I want to do for the evening. Now I made $60. I'm gonna go to dinner. Like, I'd be like, hello, my friend Kimmy, you want to go out somewhere? And then I tell her, and she get in the car, and I'm like, yep, made money off OnlyFans. She's like, I'm proud of you. And then we go somewhere. So, it was very lovely. It's a lovely life to live when I have the effort to live it. But sometimes I don't.
When you tell people that you do that, is there any kind of stigma around it? No. Everybody
My
around is
friends
pretty
are
cool.
very, very open-minded. Very, very like... Sometimes I just tell them in full detail. Some of my friends are like, if you ever need help, just let me know. Like, for my cowl look, there's a site called Mo Flavor. Lovely site.
No.
It has a lot of like anime-ish styled like lingerie. They're pretty fucking cool though. Expensive but cool. Reasonably so. So I was about to buy this like little cow costume and I got their ears and I had already had it all. I was like, okay, we're gonna like buy the cow costume and then we're just gonna dump milk on me in the shower and just take pictures.
God.
And I'm like,
You did
it.
this?
No,
Oh,
because
okay.
I ended up not.
Oh,
It would have taken so much planning and so much milk. And I'm like, and honestly, I was like, I don't even think I should do milk. I should probably do creamer. Like, it sticks more. Like, milk slides. Milk's thinner than creamer.
So you gave this some serious thought.
Yeah, it's OnlyFans is on the theatrics. It is so theatrical. It is ridiculous because it's like people see porn and porn's acting, dog. People are like, people don't understand, and that's what's caused a terrible stigma in, like, confidence and sex and, like, the misinformation of what sex should be like. It's like, porn, it's just acting. Like, most men's penises are not that big. Second of all, no girl is, like, in the middle of, like, sex like that. Like, that just doesn't happen.
I hope she's not doing that. That's a weird noise to bust out.
Like, it's like, porn's a very bad representation of sex. Some people's sex could be like that. I don't fucking know, but, like... in the OnlyFans, it's like theatrical. Like, there was a whole thing, like, where people were like, accountants is what we're called on platforms where you can't talk about your sex worker, say you're a sex worker.
That's like, the code.
It's the code. Like, I'm an accountant. Like, That's what it is. So,
How funny is that? That's the branding workout.
yeah, it's
Like
so
the complete
fucking good.
opposite, the most boring job you could have versus, oh yeah, like I'm a creator on OnlyFans.
Yeah. What was it? Oh, there was a sound on TikTok and it was so funny. And it was like, nobody asks. If anybody asks, you tell them I'm an accountant. What do you do? I'm an accountant. Where do you work? The place where accountants work. And it's a whole sound.
Oh
And I
my
remember how
god.
funny it was because it was people in snaps of their moments, like doing sex work, not like actively, but like. So one thing you do to make it look like it's cum, you literally put like Cetaphil. It's a face cleanser, but it's sticky and it's like a pale, like a liquidy pale milk color, and it looks like cum. And it's the theatrics of it. It's literally just theatrics. It's so fucking funny though. I remember someone was squirting it into their hand, and they were like, "I'm an accountant." I'm
Oh
like,
my god.
I was like, that is the best thing I have ever fucking seen. And I'm like, that is so good. And that's just what it is, though. And it's like, as long as you're okay with, like, your body being out on the internet and you're 100% and you've associated boundaries that you're going to be able to keep and cut people off that are toxic and negative, OnlyFans isn't terrible. Like, I didn't get too far up the ladder, but I'm like, I had a fine time with it. I pop it back up from time to time. Otherwise, it's just there. Like, you can find me on She Devil. Like, that's literally my name. I think it's She Devil Waifu, actually. Let me double check. I might have just accidentally incorrectly branded myself.
Plug some other creator.
I mean, good for them. Go support them all. But like they work hard for the money. Like, it is so fucking true. I have to make sure I just did the right one. But yeah, it's like, for men or women, if you're looking to start an OnlyFans, full send, I feel like you should consult with someone first who knows and has She Devil. Best She Devil. That's what it was.
There we go.
But don't follow me on there though. I don't post anything. Like, I'm not active right now. Don't subscribe.
You're gonna get a bunch of subscribers being like, "What is happening? There's no content.
There's no recent content. Like, I fucking told you, I'm not.
Thanks for the money, but
like,
I don't know what to
pop-up
tell
shop's
ya.
not up, pal. It'll be up whenever I feel like it's up again. But like, yeah, I feel like people should consult someone who's like experienced and professional in working in sex work and things like that to be able to get all their questions met. Because a lot of people have a lot of fucking questions. So many fucking questions, dude. Like, what? Someone who I didn't expect would ever start an OnlyFans asked me like 20 questions, and I was like, oh my fuck, I can't answer all of these for you in like a timely manner. I'm gonna have to give me like 2 to 3 business days to be able to get back to you, and then outsource them to other people too, so they're prepared when they do, if they do decide to after that. So, but yeah, if you're a dude, I say full on, full send, do it too. Like, unfortunately, like, it's become a pretty flooded industry. Like, everybody and their mom, like, people from high school have an OnlyFans that I know.
Really?
Yeah, and they're like moms, so they like milk on the like the MILF factor, and I'm like, go you.
Oh,
I'm like, I applaud. You really went for the category that you fit, and I'm fucking proud of you. I'm like,
we're in such a weird day and age. You can do whatever you want to do. If you have an idea, you can do it.
yep.
You can do it.
Yep. Dude,
There's nobody stopping you.
No! People are so creative and so skilled now. Like, for one of my fucking burlesque acts, I'm like a fucking robot, right? But I'm like a weird Lolita AI. So I'm like an artificial intelligent Lolita, like Lolita looking chick. And I'm like, I want to do something with like fucking lights, and I want to look like a computer. Like, I want to look like a cyborg pretty much. I'm like, I want a costume that represents that. Like, I want to go from like covered in flowers, take off my dress, and then it's like I have a fucking pussy pasty that's gonna have like fucking wires running up my body. I have a giant, I had to commission someone because I'm not that skilled, but like commission someone to have a rip-off bra, so the cups rip off, but they're not cups, it's a giant bow, but it has like computer chips on it and computer parts on it, and it's like a metallic pink.
Man.
Oh yeah, so like, and that rips off completely, and I am 100% fucking ready to bring the weirdest shit that anybody's ever seen, and it's to the song Shelter by Porter Robinson, which is this really emotional, like, EDM song.
Oh god.
And I'm like, this is gonna slap. I'm like, this is gonna be the weirdest shit anybody's ever seen, but it's gonna slap. So, and I do acrobatic shit in my acts, so it's like,
It's gonna be intense.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Plus, it's like, I learned that you could like a pussy pasty is like a merkin. Do you know what a merkin is?
Oh, Jezza and Lila are probably gonna get mad at me because I feel like they told me about this. No, refresh my memory.
So a merkin is like a piece of fabric, or it's like a pasty that fits around your pussy.
I know what a pasty is.
Yeah, a pasty covers your titties. A pussy pasty is like fabric that covers your pussy, and then a merkin is like fake hair though.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they
it's like
mentioned
fake
that.
pubes and
Yeah.
shit, and that's like the difference. But it also goes over your pussy. It's like the difference between a merkin and a pussy pasty. So, but I learned that you could have like pussy pasties that could like go further up your body. Like I think their name was Golden Brick House, and they're a burlesque dancer that I saw up in Washington recently, and they had like a pussy pasty, but they had like a bunch of like vines, and like it was like an applique that went up their body.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, that's fucking really cool looking, and I never thought of that. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I could make like an applique that I could spray glue onto my body that's like a bunch of wires. So I looked,
Oh, that would be cool.
yeah. So, and then I bought like light ropes, like neon pink light ropes that I'm gonna have to like weave into my arms. So then at some point, I'm thinking I'm gonna hide them in the side of my tits, and then I'll just like turn them on and
Light
they'll
up.
light up. This is crazy shit of burlesque and drag for you. That's wild.
Oh
but
man. Oh, that'll be cool.
I'm excited for the opportunity whenever it may come. I don't know. I have plans to apply for festivals this year, so hopefully with that act, because it means a lot to me, because I have like my 3 personas in my burlesque persona, so, and they're like chunks of my personality, so, and that's a whole fucking thing. So yeah, freedom of expression, right? That's pretty cool.
So talk to me about the being gender fluid, because I'll be honest, I don't know much about that.
Okay, well, being gender fluid, it's like, it kind of came from a realization that I was like I said, we're gonna go back to the burlesque persona things, which in reality are reflections of parts of my personality. So I have like 3 of them, and they're like the all encompassing of like a heavy section of who I am as a person. So I have a gold, and that's his name, and it's a he, which is where I was like, okay, I definitely can apply this to me as a person, because I don't always feel like a female. Like sometimes if I could Mr. Potato Head pop my tits off, 100% would. Like, it's fucking ridiculous. Like, not an annoyance, just like in a body dysmorphia factor. Like, I want a flat chest. Like, sometimes, like, your entire physique, like, I wish I had a physique like that. I wish I had a more masculine presence rather than having, like, tits and a feminine presence, which is kind of, like, where that started from. And then eventually I'm like, since I was, like, younger, I was like, I always, like, used to think, I'm like, what is it like to fuck with a dick? I'm like, I want to know what it's like to fuck someone with a dick. Guy or girl, I don't fucking care, but I'm like, I wonder what it's like. And I used to like theorize what it was like. I'm like, sometimes I wish I had a dick. Like, I don't want to do a full, like, because I'm fluid, I'm not like, I am a dude. Like, that's not what it is. It's like, sometimes I'm like, I think I'm more like presenting and feeling masculine, like a man, in comparison to being like, obviously biologically, I'm like a female. So, but that's what binders are for and tape are for. So there's going to be days where I'm probably going to be like not feeling like a woman, and I'm going to be like, I feel more like a man today. I feel more masculine today. I'm going to like tape my titties back and wear a suit, in comparison to me always wearing dresses and wearing a lot of jewelry and makeup. And there's going to be some days where I'll probably be straight in the fucking middle, and I'm just going to be like, I'm here. So that's kind of like where that came from, was just slow realizations. I'm like, when I kind of like came to that conclusion, I also follow people on TikTok. Like, at first I thought this was like normal to think of, but as I followed more people on TikTok who were gender fluid, and they kind of talked about how they felt about themselves and how they're like, it was specifically this one TikTok, and I remember that's when it fucking like hit the gas on the whole thought process. Was I don't remember what their name is on TikTok, but they're hilarious. But they do a very big like, I'm gender fluid, my masculine version, my feminine, me as a man, me as a woman, and they have both of those. And it was a conversation with themselves, and it was like me thinking like I want to get like breast reduction completely surgery, like cut them off completely, and then the other side of me is like, but I like having boobs. And I'm like, holy shit, I've never felt so relatable to an entire, like, conversation in my life. So it started from that. And then it was like, I saw more things, and, you know, I talked to people who are non-binary or things like that. And I'm like, you know, definitely don't think I don't feel right saying that I'm like, oh yeah, I identify as she, her, because that just never sat right with me. Like, even before I realized I'm like, oh, I'm gender fluid, it was like they, them, she, her. And then when I'm like, I kind of realize I'm like, he also is fine with me, she is also fine with me, they is also fine with me. Like, it's a constantly fluctuating thing for me, the fluidity of being like gender fluid. And like, I've told like my friends, I've told quite a few people, the people that in casual conversation, I'm like, oh yeah, I came to the conclusion, I think I'm gender fluid. So that's a thing. And they're like, good for you. Thank you for coming out to me. I'm like, you're welcome. I'm like, just a thing that I came to realize as of late. So when you spend a lot of time with your thoughts and like gender identity, like when I was younger, I definitely don't think, like, I've always wanted to be more masculine and always wanted to be more masculine presenting. Like, the feeling of being masculine is very comforting, and to present that way is even more comforting at times. In comparison to right now, where I'm much more feminine presenting. And so, like, it started there. Didn't really think too much about it, because, you know, you have the tomboys and things like that of, like, the youth. But it stuck. Like, some days I'm like, fuck, I just want to go out in cargo pants and flip-flops, and I wish I didn't have tits. Like, I want to look like a dad.
Are cargo pants masculine?
I feel like cargo pants are masculine.
That's
Maybe
the
that's
thing?
not.
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever seen a woman identifying person wear cargo pants. Correct
I've
me if
seen
I'm
I've
wrong.
seen women hiking wear cargo pants for sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll just wear them casually. To the grocery store, to wherever.
I'm in cargo pants right now.
That's what I'm saying. This is casual. This is different.
Like 90% of my attire.
Like, men will wear cargo pants anywhere. Women will wear cargo pants where it's the correct situation. Sometimes I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go grocery store in cargo pants. Fuck it, I'm gonna go out and hang out with my friends in cargo pants. And
But
I'm
does
like,
that make you masculine if you just wanted to fucking wear
it
cargo
makes
pants?
me feel more masculine. It doesn't actually make anybody more or less masculine, but for me, wearing cargo pants, you know, taping my fucking titties as far as it goes, a t-shirt, a dad hat, and having my hair up as, like, tight as it can possibly go, because I don't want to really cut my hair off. Like, I'm very happy with my hair. So, like, it by default doesn't actually make anybody really more masculine or feminine, but it's how I want to feel more masculine in my own masculinity and, like, identifying as a man at times. So, kind of how that goes.
What do you mean by, like, this idea of feeling more masculine? Like feeling like a man? Like, what does that entail to you when you say that?
It's like,
Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, I don't know. Like, I hear that's a common phrase people say, is like, I feel more masculine. I'm sitting here like, I don't know what that means. And, like, I don't, obviously I'm a man.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But
though.
I don't like I don't know how it would feel to be masculine.
Have you ever, like, had a feeling of, well, obviously, I mean, do you identify as a man? Like, you just straight identify, you're like, I'm a man.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're biologically a man.
Yeah.
So, and you've never really felt, like, a feminine type of energy and feminine type of, like, feeling.
But see, I don't know what that means, because, like, I don't know what it's like to be a woman.
But the thing is, you've never felt like a woman. So it's really hard to explain.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. How would I know if I felt like a woman, because I don't know how a woman feels?
That's the thing. You just kind of fucking, like, no. I don't really know how to describe it. Like, it's very interesting, because it's like, for me, my, like, how I emotionally feel when I'm in a more masculine presenting isn't very much different than how I am as a person. Obviously, I'm not, like, fucking completely personality shifting or anything like that. But, like, how I feel like I want to present myself and, like, the energy that I'm holding being in that masculine space and being a man, I'm just, like, much more, like, grounding and much more, like, I don't know how to really describe it. It's very interesting. But, like, it's just the feeling of being a man and being more masculine, I suppose. Some people think it kind of feeds into, like, what the stereotype of masculinity is, sometimes to a degree, and I've heard that be stated before. But it's like...
Well, it sounds like it's definitely very visual. Like, there's an attachment to outward expression. Like you said, cargo shorts, dad hat, biting your chest.
That's definitely like the casual look for me in comparison to how I usually would like to present myself. It's like I like the clean cut suit look. I don't want to have tits. I just don't want to have them at all. If I could get rid of them but have them back when I wanted to, I wish I could, but I can't because that's not exactly a risk. We can't just Mr. Potato pop your titties off and pop them back on. So like suit, I like the more colorful clean cut suit look. Like, I wish I didn't have tits. I wish I had more of, like, a flatter chest, something that's more, like, angular and more muscular. Like, physically, I want to look more like a man and what a man looks like. Like you, or, like, my partner, or, like, you know, any masculinely presenting and identifying man is kind of where that feeling comes from. Like, it comes with a feeling that leads me in that direction. So, and it's always been present. Like, it's been, like, present on and off throughout my life, and that's why I'm like, okay, it's fluidity. It's not like I'm trans. So, because like I enjoy wearing dresses and I enjoy looking more feminine presentation to what society, I guess, determines is like feminine in comparison. So, you know, it kind of goes into this like idea of like, so what society determines is like what's feminine and what's masculine, and that's always going to be a thing, unfortunately. But like, when I see men in magazines, for example, or I see, like, very attractive men, like, part of it's, like, a sexual attraction, but the other part of it's, like, I want to look like that. Like, that's what I want to look like. It's the same, like, obviously not exactly like that, because it's not possible, because some of those men have had cosmetic, like, adjustments, and, you know, they go to the gym, and they're, like, personal trainer, and they're cut and swole as fuck. Not possible. But this feeling of, like, you know, when you look at something and it's, like, it has an energy around it. Like, there's a masculine energy around it, kind of. Like, there's a feeling of, like, what energy is kind of tied to being a man to a degree. And like I said, it's going back into, like, a stereotypical kind of a field, but it's, like, that is kind of the energy I kind of begin to feel from when I look at myself, and I'm like, I'm what I want to look like right now. Like, that feeling. Those, like, feelings of what it's like to be a dude. So, in comparison to when I look like a chick and I'm like, I'm wearing a dress, I think I look hot, I think I look great, I think I look beautiful, you know. So,
If we took out the visual aspect and say there were no gender stereotypes of, oh, men wear this and women wear these clothes, how would it, if you tried to put it into words, how would it be without the clothing aspect?
like, how I would present
Yes,
myself
like
as a
if we
man?
all just say nobody wore clothes, there were no clothes, and it was like you felt this because I wouldn't say masculine energy, but like I've been around women who have, I guess you could say like I guess you could say a masculine presence. I don't know if I would say that, but they feel, I don't know, because people are so different. So you can be around one person who has this energy, whatever it is, and then go around somebody else and they have one that's completely different, regardless if they're the same gender or if they're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not trying to badger you or anything. I
no,
just
no, 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 no.
like
I'm trying to,
I'm
like,
fat,
answer
like
your
I'm
question.
super interested.
It's just a really weird thing to try to explain.
Yeah,
to
no, I get
cis
that. That's why I'm like,
man.
okay,
It's, like,
how
very
would you
weird.
put it? Because I'm like, I totally, I get it, but like I don't get it. So it's like, how put it into words?
It's
Help me
hard to describe.
understand.
I don't really know how to describe it
Yeah,
other than, like,
because it sounds like it's very visual,
my
is what I'm
expression
getting.
is very visual.
Yeah,
How do
so
I
I'm trying to
express
see.
this feeling that I'm having when
Yeah,
I'm
if we
identify
got
as a
rid of the
man?
visual aspect, is it like? Because I don't know what a masculine presence. Like, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a man?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're gonna take that question off the table because if we're going like plain off of just like what it is and not trying to go off of like stereotypes or putting any of the labels, because when you look at like masculine energy, feminine energy, we're still putting stereotypes on what labels those two things what they are. It's like, I don't know. You just literally like you exist, you function as you are, and you're just like, It's the thing of like, I biologically don't want tits. I biologically don't want a pussy right now. Like, I just don't want it. I wish I had the opposite. So if you were to kind of look at it like that, I can't do that. I can't go and like, for me in my situation, like, I can't, fortunately, I can't like switch a fucking switch and just have a penis all of a sudden. So I'm like, well, when I do feel like that, Like, when I'm like, I want to be a man. I want to be biologically a dude right now. Like, how can I, like, compensate for that feeling that I'm currently having? Because eventually, I'm going to go back and I'm going to feel like I'm a woman. And in which, or I'm going to identify as a lady at that time. I guess I'd like to say feel like a woman, feel like a man, because it's like, it comes in these, like, very intense amount of feelings for me. So, for me, being a woman, it's like, okay, I biologically obviously have all the parts of what it is to, like, biologically be a lady. I put on whatever it is I put on to represent what I want to represent. Like, that's why when it comes to me feeling like a man and wanting to be a man at that time, it's like, if we were all naked, if we're expressing ourselves the way we want to, like, for example, like, unfortunately, clothes and, how we appear, that's how it is. And it's just very weird, because it's like, how do you express it if you didn't have those things? It's like, you really can't. I
Well,
mean, you can,
I mean,
as
they're
in,
like,
like,
if you took the very basic ones, like there are men very like Jason Momoa has long hair, which you could say is like a feminine quality, long
mm-hmm,
hair, but the dude's jacked, definitely shredded guy.
uh-huh,
Or you could look at someone like, some skinny dude that's got a buzz cut, that's fresh out of basic training, who's like not defined, doesn't look very masculine, but has short hair like a guy would, I guess.
mm-hmm. I
I don't know,
don't,
is that a good example or is that a
no,
bad
it's
one?
like a fine example. It's like, that's just, like, back to the physical
I
appearances,
know, how
though.
do you strip, cuz what does it mean to be a man? Or what does it mean to be a woman? Like I obviously like having the parts plays into it, but does it? Cuz I mean it does, but does it?
It's like, your biological parts don't play a part in it, period. If you do not feel like if you are like, I am not a man, like, if in my circumstances, if I wasn't gender fluid and I was trans,
Mm.
and I was like, I'm not a woman, I'm a man. Inside, I'm a man, period. Like, what do people go through to go to that process? How do they change to be able to feel right in their skin? Because it's like, you don't feel right in your skin
Yeah.
when you don't identify with your own, like, biological body parts. And that's the thing, though, is like, it's changeable. It's unfortunately very expensive, and it's fucking hard. And it's like, it's a whole process, and it's difficult. You could go through testosterone, you can go through estrogen, you can take hormones, like, all these things. Like, there's so many things you can do to kind of adjust and to identify more biologically as that. Because it is fucking awful to be in your skin and to be like, this isn't, like, physically, this is not who I am. Like, or who I like, how I want to be. Because inside I feel this way, but, like, obviously physically and how I was born was not the way I should be.
I think that's the concept that I'm trying to grasp at here, cuz if I said I feel like a woman, I don't know what that means personally, because like I don't know how a woman feels. Like I only know how I feel. Even if you took out the sex of it, I only know
Mm-hmm.
how I don't know how you feel. If there was a guy sitting right there, I don't know how he feels. I know how
Mm-hmm.
I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say that, I'm always like, what is that? Like what does that mean?
It's really hard to, like, be
Put into
able.
words.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't even know if there's 100%, like, a correct answer. Like, someone who is trans is someone who maybe has a little bit more, like, experience working around it could answer it better than I can, because, like I said, I only became, like,
Yeah, you're
really
still like
identified as
figuring it
gender
out.
fluid, and I was like, oh, well, okay. Well, for me, it doesn't really change much for me, because I'm just like, okay,
Yeah, you're not going down the path of reassignment surgery
changing.
and
Yeah, I'm not
taking
changing
testosterone
anything.
and all these things.
Yeah, no, that's not on, like, the agenda for me, and I'm just like, okay, well, it's like, it's like why we call it sometimes our gender identity.
Mhm.
It's like your identity. How would you say you have your identity? How are you going to express your identity? Because it is you. That is who you are. So how are you going to express that? How are you going to, other than verbally telling people, like, hey, today I'm a dude, today I'm feeling pretty masculine today, and I think I'm going to identify, I'm going to identify as a man today. Or you can, like I said, you can still call me she, they, him, I don't care. But, today I wish I had a penis. Today I wish I didn't have titties. If I could just, I would. But, like, it just comes down to that expression and identity of like how the fuck would you like, other than verbally, without the things that we've already discussed on how I express when I feel that way. It's like there's like, other than verbally, there's like no other way to like really, because there's like a lot of stigma with trans women specifically that's really bad, is like because some trans women still biologically have what they had before, it's like people will stigmatize and they'll like not view them as women.
Trans women is male to female.
Male to female.
Male to female. Okay.
Yeah, and like people will like not view them as women. They don't consider them actual women just because they have the same biological parts they had when they were born, and that's where I'm like, see, that's not right. That's not okay, and that's not right. If they're saying verbally and they're like, this is who I am, I'm a woman, you know, even though I still biologically at this moment in time, even if they're not even considering doing that, you know, and they're like, I think I'm just gonna, you know, I'm just tuck it, I'm just gonna keep it, whatever. Like, they don't plan, even if they don't even plan to remove their, like born, like their genitalia or change it or whatever the fuck they want to do, the fact that they say verbally, hey, take away everything. Hey, I'm a woman. Inside, I'm a woman. What I want to do with my body is my choice, but I'm a woman. It's like, that's it. That's what makes you a woman. I feel like it's like, that's it. It's just specifically stating, I'm a woman. That is it. Or for me, I'm like, sometimes I'm a woman. Sometimes I feel like I'm a man. Sometimes I feel like I'm a woman. Sometimes I'm like this weird in between, and it's fluid. It's like a spectrum. So, and that's it. That's why people have a problem with it, though, is because they're like, you can't just, some people have a weird thing where they're like, oh, you can't just say that when you still have a penis or you still have a vagina or whatever. It's like, but like inside, like I can't even fucking imagine. I can only slightly imagine because, like I said, sometimes I don't fucking want what I biologically was given. Like, but being completely trans and having to experience, like, the body dysmorphia, the gender dysphoria, like, of just wanting to change everything because you just don't feel right in your current set of skin, I can't even imagine that. Like, I can only kind of imagine that, but, like, not to that level, you know? Like, and then also just having people shit on you for your gender identity, for like, why? Like, people have such a big problem with it. For what reason? I don't get it. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, why? It's like, it doesn't bother you. It doesn't affect you. There's nothing about this person and who they are that actually involves you. So, and people still, that's why there's so many fucking hate crimes towards, like, Black trans women specifically and trans women. It's fucking incredible, like, the amount of violence. And a lot of people, like, it's probably, a lot of people, not even probably, a lot of people get, like, insecure about their own sexuality. And, like, people, one thing is, like, I follow quite a few, like, trans women on TikTok, and they talk about it, about how scared they are to tell, because, like, they present very feminine in the stereotypical way they present feminine. And they're afraid, they get scared when they have to tell people they're sexually interacting with or, like, talking to that they're, like, a trans woman. So, and they still biologically have a penis, they get terrified because people get violent, because people get insecure about their own sexuality, and they're like, they'll get very aggressive, and it's dangerous, and it's scary, and there's so many things.
Yeah, that's not good. I mean, you should be like, whatever you want to do in your life, as long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to do whatever you want to do. And if you're not hurting anybody, especially if it doesn't affect you, like, why do you care? But I do think that if you're, you know, if you're trans and you're going to engage with a sexual partner, I do think that you should tell them, hey, this is what's going on. I think that ties into open communication. Be like, hey, this is the situation. Do you still want to go through with this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, you know, it is a thing, and it makes a difference. Whether or not it should or it shouldn't, it does.
Mm-hmm.
I think that open communication is very important. I don't think you should just, even if you do have the parts that go along with how you identify. I think you should make it known.
Yeah, it's a pretty. It's a
There's a lot
very.
of gray areas in all
It's
of
a
this,
very, very,
and
very.
people get very touchy when you try to talk about things and work through
It's
ideas.
not even like touchy. It's just like a lot of people have conflicting opinions about that. Like some people are like, why is it their business that they know? Like, why does it matter? And then some people are like, no, you should definitely communicate it and things like that. Like, and some people are just like, and then there's like, yeah, there's like a middle ground where people are like, well, sometimes I get really scared. And some people are like, well, like, I want someone to like me for like my personality. Like, like, I am a woman. Like, I why does my genitalia kind of matter to a degree? So there's like a lot of
Do you think it matters? Do you
questions.
think they should say?
It's like I'm in this weird middle ground where I'm like I understand cuz like if, for me if I had like when I feel like I'm a dude, when I'm like I am a dude today, like I wish I could have like a penis, for example. And if I were to be transitioning at some point, if I ever made that decision where I was like thinking about transitioning and identified as a male, and I like was perceived as male, and like all these things, you know, I don't even know. Even then, it's like it's hard to say. It's just hard to say because it's like there's obviously other sexual routes you can go, specifically, especially if you're a trans woman and things like that. But I don't really know, and I don't know if I really have like 100% of a say if you should or you shouldn't because I'm not a trans woman. I'm not a trans woman at all. In fact, I'm the opposite. I'm more of like I'm a gender fluid individual. Sometimes I feel like a man, but I don't have any. I have a vagina. Openly tell people that I have a vagina, as in like most people perceive it anyways. So it's not really a conversation that I've ever had to engage in or experience from either. So it's hard for me to say, nor feel like do I have 100% should have an opinion on it. You know, I think it'd be good on this podcast if you ever brought back Skyland
I reached out to her, yeah, to try to get her
Ultra.
back on.
I
Yeah,
think you should reach out to them because I feel like they could definitely provide a lot of
yeah.
fucking insight. She has experienced some of the baddest shit, craziest shit I have ever heard. And they would be really good to be able to, like a trans woman, to speak from experience of what the fuck that's like. So, because for me, it's like being gender fluid. Some people are just like, for me, my only issue is people don't take me seriously. They're like, oh, you're gender fluid, okay. And I'm like, what? I'm like, eventually I'm gonna start like presenting very masculinely and I will look like a man. Like, I don't understand. Like, right now, obviously, it's hard budgeting wise and financially, even being a trans woman or trans man, like getting surgeries and things like that, even like presenting yourself in like, I'm gonna have two fucking entirely different wardrobes, you know, because I want to feel the way I want to feel and look the way I want to look when I feel the way that I do. So, but yeah, back to the sex question. It's hard to answer that question, you know? So, definitely needing a trans woman in this conversation to speak from their experience because I've seen so many conflicting answers on TikTok. Some, like I said, some people say no, some people say yes, and it's like, but overall, no matter what, it's always comes down to the fear of when you do or when they find out. It's like that makes me really uncomfortable and sad.
Well, I don't think if you told them, like, if you're at a bar and you're drinking and hitting things off, I think if you told them then, I don't see why they would get upset. But if you wait until like you're back at someone's place, then I could see somebody getting upset.
Yeah,
Not justifying that, not saying that that's.
this is where it gets kind of whack. So as a his cis man that you are,
Mm,
unfortunately, that's the thing though. You know, you're in talking. Let's say, in theory, like I was talking to someone at the bar. You know, I'm like a trans woman, but instead biologically I had a penis, and like I'm talking to a dude. The amount of people who just freak the fuck out when they find out that you're like a trans woman, that you're a woman, but so biologically for some fucking reason have like you're a woman. Period at the day. If you're a trans woman, you're a woman. Like that's it. But for some reason, when you still biologically have the genitalia you were born with, for some reason that freaks people out, and people just get defensive. Like I'm sorry to say, but it's like, unfortunately, when you're back at like someone's apartment and you tell them like that can result to even more violence than when you're in a public place. But even when you're in a public place and you tell someone, and, you know, you've been talking to them for, like, let's say 30, 45 minutes, and you're hitting it off, like, people will still freak the fuck out, and they'll fucking hurt you. That's the life it is being a trans woman, and, like, especially, like, black trans women and things like that. That's unfortunately the fucking reality that they have to, like, live with, and that's why it's such a debate sometimes, and that's why it's terrifying. And, like, there was a comment, or there was a post at one point that I saw where they're like, don't tell them in person, tell them over a text message, because you can't get hurt that way.
Or that's good too. I mean, that works.
Like, but the thing is, it sucks that they have to go through safety precautions, just because it's like, even telling someone before any of these, like, the you interfingle with someone, it's like, the fact you have to go to that extent. Like, obviously, it's like, well, if we were to be conversating and, like, we're talking in the bar, like, it's not really a worry or anything like that. Like, for you, you're pretty, like, open-minded and very, like, guy. If someone was like, oh, you know, I biologically still have a penis, but I'm a woman, you'd be like, oh, shit, well, for you, I'm assuming that wouldn't be like, you'd be like, eh.
I'd be like, shit, you want to come on my podcast? Like, let's
let's
have a beer and talk. Let's go.
But yeah,
no, but yeah, I wouldn't freak out. I wouldn't freak out. I would be like, oh, I would probably keep talking to them, like, if we were having an engaging conversation, but it wouldn't be of a sexual nature. Like, that would change the dynamic of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't.
But my thought wouldn't be to get like, I wouldn't be pissed off, like, oh, why are you even like, I wouldn't take it there. That's
like,
just
threatens men's masculinity to an extent, and it just, like, even though it's not of a threatening nature at all, the logic behind it makes no fucking sense. It kind of, like, makes a sense, like, for me, like, it ties down to, like, why do people care so much about what other people do with their bodies when it doesn't even directly affect them? Like, it just doesn't directly affect them, so why do you care? And if anything, it's like, yeah, when you're transparent and open and honest in the beginning of a conversation, you're like, and if a trans woman's like, yeah, you know, I still have biologically a penis, or if you're a trans man and you're like, yeah, I still biologically have a vagina, which, even then, for some, I feel like, oh, fuck, I don't want to quote something incorrect, because I might quote in something incorrect.
Do it.
I just, like, we focus a lot on trans women, because for some reason, trans women get so much more fucking hate, and so much more fucking violence, comparatively to trans men. And I could be incorrect about this, and it's possible, and I'm perfectly fine being corrected on that. And it's mostly just because, like, I feel like a lot of women, when they come in and maybe there's got to be some cases where trans men are fucking definitely, like, have to experience violence and have to experience these negative situations. But, like, I feel like there's just women, you know, if I came across someone and they're just, like, you know, masculine presenting, and I'm perceiving them to be male, and they're like, you know, I'm a male, but I still biologically have, you know, like, female parts, I'd just be like, well, shit, okay. Like, for me, because I'm bi, that doesn't change anything, but, you know, even straight women, you know, we live in a pretty progressive, at least in this area, I feel like it's pretty progressive. Maybe it's just the people I surround myself with, but live in a pretty progressive society where it's like, oh, well, that's fine. Like, you know, I'm not, unfortunately, you know, that might cause some difficulties for me, but, like, there's also, like, other solutions, like, for that, like, some people have strap-ons, some people have things to replace that, like, anatomy that they may lack or are waiting to go get. So, and even for dudes, there's, like, other routes, but for some reason with men specifically, like, when they find out they're talking, like, men and sexuality and masculinity is a very sensitive subject for other men. Like, it's just, like, it's like, for example, look at, like, how society treats men, how you're not able to cry. Like, emotions with men is, like, a big no-no. Like, that's, until recently, I feel like that's becoming something that's breaking, but, like, for a while, that was, like, you know, you have men teaching their, you know, male sons, like, yeah, like, that's not something you should do. You're being a pussy, you're being a girl, don't act like a girl, or, like, the insult, you fight like a girl, things like that. Like, it was a bad thing to be a woman or to be any type of feminine characteristic if you were a man. So, like, when it comes to like sensitive masculinity and things like that, and toxic masculinity is kind of where that goes into, is when it, like, when you interact with people like that is where it becomes problematic, and it becomes dangerous for, trans women and black trans women specifically, and things like that. In those situations, like, I see a lot of hate crime videos that pop up on my feed of just like, God, there was a really big one that happened, and I unfortunately don't remember. It was in, I don't remember, I think it was in the Bay Area. But these 3 women, where they were coming back from a bar, and they were trying to like leave this group of men they were like talking with in this bar, and they were like being harassed because they had told them, I believe, that they were like, just, like, I'm a trans woman, I biologically still have this, but I'm a woman. And they got fucking ridiculed, and like the men came up to them and like ripped their, like, they had a wig on, they ripped their fucking wig off, they were like hitting them, and it was like, they even left, like they tried to leave the whole situation, and they just got like fucking like harassed. And it just comes back to like, sometimes, like, if we interact with somebody or anything that we don't understand, for some reason, like, the human's natural instinct is like, I feel like it's just to be a fucking dick about it. It's just to be like, to make fun of it, to not treat it right sometimes.
Well, yeah, in evolution, we evolved, if you didn't fit in with the tribe, you got excluded from the tribe. If you didn't fit the mold, it wasn't a cohesive group, And it sucks. There are shitty people out there. That's just an unfortunate reality of life. And it would be great if there weren't. But that's not life, unfortunately. And it sucks. It really sucks. And I feel for those people.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly fucking terrible that we fucking live like that. Like, that people still feel that way to a degree. And feel the need to act that way, I guess, to things that make them, like, things they don't understand. And then they get uncomfortable. And when they get uncomfortable, they do things like fucking like that. And it's fucking bad shit to me. I don't get it. And maybe that's just because I am the way I am, and I'm part of the LGBTQIA, believe, like, community. And for me, being like, I can't understand what the fuck, how someone who's not, I guess, in my community thinks about shit like that. Like, it's fucking weird to me. I don't comprehend it. I don't know, it's just really strange. Just very, very weird. And then, additional to that, it's like, it's weird how you go from someone perceiving you or whatever, they actually respect your identity. They're like, yeah, you're a woman, until you tell them you still biologically have a penis, and they're like, you're not a woman. Like, what? It doesn't fucking matter if I biologically still have that. If I am a woman, I am a woman, period, at the end of the day.
I get both sides. I mean, like, if I took an abstract look at it and removed emotion from it, I get it. I mean, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of where I want to go with that, because it is a hard subject.
It is. It's a sensitive subject.
It is very sensitive.
But it's like, it really, the thing is, like, for a difference, if someone, like, a woman tells you, and they're like, oh yeah, biological self-penis for you, you're gonna be like, that's fine. Like, for me, it's like, if you were like, it's, sexually, maybe that's off the table, but, like, you're not gonna fucking chastise them or anything like that. You're gonna treat her with respect. And that's where you're still gonna view her as a woman, though, correct?
I'll be honest, I could only speculate, because I don't think I haven't, like, personally been in the company of any trans women that I know of, or trans men.
You've seen Skylin. You've talked with Skylin.
Yeah, but back when they were Skylar.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Skylin hasn't gone through any of the...
They're going through hormones.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
But even then, it's
like... I gotta get her back on. We gotta have a conversation.
Yeah, I feel like
the thing is... I would support if she wants to say she's a woman, like I totally support that. I'm cool with that. I have no skin in, I don't care. Like that does you want to say that you're a dolphin? I don't care. That doesn't like that's a wild exaggeration, but like if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm if like they're a furry and they say, "Hey, I'm a dog. I'm a German shepherd." Actually, I'd be like, "Okay, cool for you." Like that why would I care? That doesn't affect my life at all.
Yeah, but it's like you have to be able to respect and address them as such thing as they identify with. And when it comes to being trans, and with Skylin, for example, or use her as an example, but like Skylin is a woman. Skylin is a woman. If she,
I have selective concerns, I would say. If she wants to be called a she, if she wants to, me to use certain pronouns, like, okay, I'll do my best. I'm not going to purposely misgender them for any reason.
mm-hmm.
But there's a good argument to be made, like with sports. If she wanted to go compete in female sports, I would probably have a problem with that
Mm-hmm.
because we separate genders for a reason. Like if I said I was a woman and went into women's Olympic lifting, I'm gonna I'm gonna beat a lot of the women. If I go into women's softball, I'm gonna fuck up some softball for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like we separated genders for a reason. Not saying that they should have to go play in the men's. Maybe we create a new category like we did with men and women, like we separated them. But I think there are distinctions. I do.
Well, the thing is, those are fine if you do. That's actually a pretty big conversation when it comes to like the
Yeah,
Olympics
it's a
and stuff.
big one right now.
However, fun counter argument that I don't know if you read up on this or not, but that people have been disqualified from the Olympics due to the fact that specifically women who have had too much testosterone.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's where it kind of like these women identify as women and they're not trans. They're like 100% not trans. They are just biologically women, identify as women, and they just have more testosterone than other women, and therefore their build is significantly more muscular and all these things. And it's like that's where I feel like shit gets sticky because it's like then you're looking at this weird area where it's like, okay, now you're looking at people's normal amount of because testosterone and estrogen specifically varies in person to person. Like you have more testosterone in one person than you could in another person, and that's just naturally biologically how we work.
Yeah.
So it's like you have this like in men obviously have more testosterone than women who have more estrogen and things like that. However, it gets kind of weird because it's like, well, there are people who produce the opposite more than they do produce the other one, or they have a little bit more in comparison to the average of such gender that produces like the usual amount that they do. So it's kind of like weird when it comes to using that because it's like even then that's a whole discussion and that I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like I understand why people like physically are concerned when it comes to like, biologically how they're built and they're set up, genetically and things like that, but I'm like in the end of the day, it's like, yeah, they're still a woman. They're still a man.
I
Either
think
one.
if you supplement, that's when it becomes because if I start taking testosterone, I can't go compete in these sports
Mm-hmm.
because there's an unfair advantage when testosterone is involved, and especially if you're supplementing with testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those women that have higher levels, I think they should be able to compete because
Mm-hmm.
they're not supplementing with anything. But if you
Mm-hmm.
start, if you were transitioning to male and you're taking testosterone, that's gonna have a crazy effect on your body. And I don't know. I don't think that you should be able to compete with women who aren't because it's an unfair advantage. It's like cheating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unfortunately, that's if I take testosterone and go play in a pickup basketball league, I'm kind of cheating because well, maybe not basketball because there's a lot more skill involved in that, but
Mm-hmm.
powerlifting, you have an advantage. You
Yeah.
have testosterone is a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm. I have a way to address this,
Oh,
and I'm
say it.
trying to think it out thoroughly enough.
You can just start talking and see where it goes. That's my MO. That's what I do not.
Okay.
That's what
That's
I do
fair.
all the time. I
That's
just start
fair.
talking and hope that it's coherent when it comes out.
It's like I'm trying to express this correctly. So it's like, however, okay, we take out putting a gender on people. You just have like a line of people. You got like 10 people, right? So within these people, you have like people who are in the Olympics obviously have like probably more testosterone in general.
Oh,
than
guaranteed.
just
Michael
that
Phelps
fucking
is shredded.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like
That
obviously
guy's
Michael
like
Phelps and fucking what is her name? Simone
Biles. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's a beast.
definitely fucking has
She's
more
gonna
testosterone
smoke
than
me even if I'm taking testosterone. She's
Yeah,
gonna
like
smoke my
they're
ass.
both just gonna fuck me up. So it's like, but you're looking at these. You're looking at like a line of people. You're looking at a line of people who naturally produce more testosterone than the normal
But
population.
naturally, I think is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Is the key word.
Yeah, but then it's like, okay, why is there's a stigma though for like men or like men, transgender men taking estrogen though, and people are
That's a problem too.
okay.
Well, that's what we're. Wait, transgender men would be female to male.
Female to male.
Okay.
That are okay with transgender men going and competing in men Olympics though. And that's where it's like it gets whack because they're like, okay, like that's what I'm saying. Trans women specifically have it rough. Like there's just so much more conversation and stigmatizing and all these things towards like transgender women when it comes to these things, and there is still stigma when it comes to like transgender men, don't get me wrong, but like oh, what is her name? She just won the Olympic thing, and then people were trying to shit on her for smoking marijuana at one point.
Oh, the runner.
Yeah.
Shikari Richardson?
I don't remember.
Shikari. I think her first name's Shikari.
I just remember I liked her nails a lot. But, like, I
Got
remember...
blonde hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then people
think
were
her name's
like, you
Shikari.
can't smoke weed, and she's like, my mom fucking died. That's the people
Let
were
me
like...
smoke some weed.
Yeah, I mean, fuck me too. Like, that's why I didn't shit on her. I'm like, dude, I fucking, your mom fucking died and you're still out here in the Olympics? Like, kudos to you. I would not be at the Olympics if my mom died. So it's like, things like that where I'm like, I don't know though, because I just feel like with the range of people who go and try to compete and get to where they are, it's just whack to me because there's like the natural people who have more testosterone rather they identify or they match biologically, I suppose, to their genitalia in their identity. It's like, it's just like, it's very weird to me. It's very hard to answer the question.
I think it ties back into the idea of natural though. Like there are women who guaranteed probably have higher testosterone than I do, but if they started supplementing with testosterone, they wouldn't be able to compete. And if Michael Phelps started taking testosterone, he wouldn't be able to compete because you're adding in more than what was already there. And so you're supplementing with this thing that's almost like magic pill that's going to make you better. It's like a cheat, like a cheat in a video. Yeah, it's like a cheat in a video game. Like, well, okay, well then we're not playing on the same field because if I'm playing this game and you're playing this game, and you might have more hours, but that's because you dedicated more time to it, you trained harder. But then I start using cheats. It's an unfair advantage.
Yeah, I don't know the science too much behind testosterone. I do know that it can help build your physical physique. I'm not sure about how much study's been proven on this or not.
Oh, it's a lot. Testosterone is
very crucial, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then it's a very hard discussion to have because then you have people who are like...
That's why I think we should make a third league or have a third subcategory. I do think that if you're a trans man, so female to male, and you want to compete in male sports, sure. Because I don't think the advantage works quite the same because you haven't had testosterone for a majority of your life, right? So if you're developing with testosterone, your build is going to be significantly different than if you're female and you introduce it.
But if you're taking testosterone, you're working out.
You're gonna have changes. You're gonna have changes.
You're gonna get buff as fuck.
But
probably if you're working out like an Olympian.
I think, and I could be off basis here, that you will never reach the same level as if you were just born a male.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because your testosterone, it's not. I mean, your body undergoes so many different changes depending on the hormones that are in utero, and as a child, as you're developing, your body adapts, and you can still experience some of these changes as an adult or as a young teen, and you go on these hormone replacement therapies. But I don't think it has quite the effect that it would if it was in utero. Like
I have no
I think
idea. I do not know.
I think I could be completely off basis, and someone could definitely
I
say
have
something.
not researched hormones at all.
It's just a tricky subject.
We should have another moment where we just bring Skylin as
she's got to come in, yeah.
If she's okay with it and she's willing to openly discuss it and she's okay like talking about it and things like that, because I know some like you gotta pay tribute to the people who educate you. So, and in this case, Skylin would be educating us. So, and it's because even I'm like I don't know the details of hormones or anything like that. And there's plenty of other also trans people that I know that could definitely contribute to this conversation. But like, yeah, it's hard. That's a hard question with the Olympics and things like that. However, at the end of the day, back to the subject, I'm still looking at them and I'm like, you're a woman, you're a man. If you're telling me you're a woman, you're a woman. If you're telling me you're a man, you're a man. Does not matter what your genitals are. If you're like, this is me, I'm like, that's you. Unfortunately, in society, it gets fucking complicated, but at least with my relationship with them, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're who you are. So
I'm cool calling anybody anything. My only problem is when it comes to like doxing people on social media.
What do you mean?
So like with Twitter, if someone transitions, you can grab whatever you want.
I know. I see
you keep eyeing over there. Grab
like,
it. Do whatever. Grab
another?
whatever you want.
Should I not take another?
Our little wet bar over here.
It's like I was very shocked.
So on Twitter, if someone transitions and you refer to them as the gender that they started as,
yeah,
or the name that they had,
their dead name.
Their
is that
dead
what you're
name.
Referring to?
Yeah, you get banned off Twitter. I think that's a little outrageous.
Okay, it depends. I have an answer to this one. It depends if it's in a malicious way or not. If it's in a fucking malicious way and you're doing it on fucking purpose it's called purposeful misgendering. If you're purposely misgendering someone because you don't respect their identity, you don't believe them, or you don't whatever, yeah, you're gonna get fucking banned off Twitter. You're a dick. However, because they are a woman or they are a man, he goes by he, she goes by she. Period. At the end of the day, like that's it, and that's why it's like okay. However, if you make a mistake and you're like blah blah blah, and you slip a he and you're like shit, sorry, I mean she, like, or people correct you and you're like my bad, I'll correct myself in the future. There's the intent is very very different, because there are people on fucking Twitter that I do see that will, like Nikita for example, Nikki Tutorials, these transgender women, and they're like, fuck you, you're a man, or like, he's a piece of shit, like purposely misgendering these people just because they don't respect that they're trans, they don't respect their identity, they don't respect anything about them pretty much. That is where it becomes a problem, because you're purposely being a cunt.
Yeah, but if you call somebody a cunt on Twitter, you don't get banned.
Well, I'm going to call them a cunt. If you're going to be out here calling someone purposely misgendering someone just because you don't believe in... I guess you don't believe in that? I'm not even sure why people misgender people on purpose. But, like, I just, like... That's when we're going back to... This goes back to why trans women get so much fucking heat from people. Because, like... people don't view them as women when they're women.
But does that matter?
What do you mean?
Like
their gender? Their pronouns?
How other people perceive them. Like if I say I'm a dog, or okay, I don't know how this is gonna sound because I'm working through this thought as I'm about to say.
That's fine. You might say something insulting, but I might call you out on it. So I'm just letting you know.
If I say I am a purple dragon, that one looked a little strong. If I say I'm a purple dragon and you say, no, you're not, does that give me the right to call you a fucking fascist or a fucking homophobe? Are you telling me
that you're a purple dragon because you genuinely, wholeheartedly, you're like, internally, I feel like I am a dragon and I am a purple dragon specifically. And you're like...
But does that matter?
Yes, because okay, this is like, we'll use me as an example.
Okay.
For me, sometimes I'm like, fuck, sometimes I'm a man. When I tell you that, what do you think?
Good for you.
Not good for me. No, think about it. Like, when I tell you I'm a man, what are you thinking? Like, when you look at me, what do you perceive?
Well, I would say cool.
No. That's
what I would say.
No.
I feel like you're trying to dig for something. What is the answer you're looking for?
The answer I'm looking for is like...
No, you're not. You're a woman?
You're perceiving me still as a woman.
No, is that what you would want? Is that what you're trying to dig at?
No. I'm like, you're perceiving me still as a woman, though, right? And consciously, you may still be perceiving me as a woman, even though I'm like, well, right now, I identify as a man. Like, I'm pretty gender fluid. I'm kind of on this side of the fluidity right now, feeling more masculine. I'm feeling more in my masculinity. And right now I'm in like I feel more like a man right now. for you could still be perceiving me as like, you could still be perceiving me as like a woman, because right now I'm very feminine presenting to you. Like, I'm like hair, the jewelry, the dress, all of that. Right now I'm very feminine. But like, even in the way you are consciously perceiving me, subconsciously, when you address me, if I'm like, I want to be addressed as he right now because I am emotionally and mentally here. When it comes to that, it's like the back to the purple dragon thing. I would respect it, and if you respect me and you acknowledge my gender identity and you acknowledge that I right now, which I'm not, but if I were right now like, yeah, I'm definitely more in a masculine and feel like a man right now, you're like, okay, that's where you're at in the fluidity. Therefore, I'll refer to you as he. And like, you are a man right now, and that's that. It's really just that is that. It doesn't matter on, like, if you got a penis or a vagina, it doesn't fucking matter. It's like, that is that. You know, eventually I'm like, all right, Nick, good morning. You know, I'm back to feeling more feminine today. You know, you can refer to me as she, her, or they, like, whatever, and then that's that. It's kind of like that. Because if you were to come to me like, Felicity, I identify as, like, this purple dragon, or whatever the fuck. Whatever you tell me. Identify as...
But why does it matter how I perceive you? Because that's not a reflection of you. If you perceive me as dumb, that doesn't make me dumb. That doesn't change.
That's a characteristic, though. That's not me as a person. I'm like, being a woman is not a characteristic. Being a man is not a characteristic. That is who I am. I'm a man. I'm a woman. I'm both in my scenario.
But if you can, okay, in your specific situation where you're gender fluid, doesn't that make it a characteristic? Because you're...
No, because I didn't get a choice. I mean, it wasn't like, it's not something I can, like, because you can change characteristics. You can work on behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Characteristics and behavior are things that can be changed.
Okay, but skin color is a characteristic you can't change.
You can definitely get tanner.
Yeah, but if I'm black, I can't get white.
But that's the thing, you're white. You're white. You're just white. You can't go into your genetics and reshift your, like,
but you can get tan.
You can get tan if you want to. If you want, you're like, you know, I'm kind of pale. I want to express myself in a darker color. You're not going to go out and tell people you're fucking black, though, because you can't change your genetics. You can't change your epigenetics. You can't change your race.
But if you can go from male to female, that's a change.
It's not a change, though, because
it's a change. It's not complicit. You're not saying I want to be a male, so I'm a male. Take another shot.
Yeah, it's not like I want to be a male. I don't exactly. I didn't want this. It's just something that it is.
It's still a change because at one point you were a female, and then now at this point you're a male.
I don't know if I would call it a change. It's more like a realization.
Okay, but you're changing your realization.
I don't get to change the realization.
Okay, dog. But we can say there is a change. Because either you're male or you're female at one instant in time. You can't be both.
When I'm gender fluid, I'm usually one or the other.
Yeah,
some people are androgynous and go by they and are non-binary, so they're like neither.
Okay, well, taking that out for a second. Because I'm trying to...
Okay.
We're trying to make a point here. Why does my problem is forced compliance. So I don't agree with someone purposely misgendering them or being a dick, but I don't think you should be able to punish that person for... being a dick. Does that make sense? Because my perception of you doesn't affect you unless you let it. Like, if you call me an asshole, I'm not going to be like, man, I'm an asshole. I'm going to be like, no. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. So if I identify as a male, or if I identify as a female, and somebody calls me the opposite, why does that matter? Because it doesn't affect me.
But it does affect those people. Because these
people
But
that's a choice.
That for them to be affected?
Yeah.
Well, obviously how you react to scenarios, it's like, it's entirely up to you. But in these scenarios, it's like when you have someone and they're just purposely misgendering you, it's because they don't look at you like that. They don't look at you like you are. Yeah, but why does it matter
how they look at you? Like, why do, if I'm in that situation and I'm trans, why do I have to force someone else to perceive me the way I want them to?
You technically don't have to, but the thing about it is when it comes to being a trans woman and having someone purposely just be like, fuck you, you're a man, just because you have a penis still. Like, everything, most of the time, it's like, you're very female presenting, you know, whatever the fuck, or even then, it shouldn't matter, but it's like, most of the time, they look at them and like, at first glance or first look, they're like, you know, their brain goes, female. Until they learn for some reason that they have a penis and now they're like, you're not a female. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. So it's like when they purposely be a dick and they're just like, obviously, a lot of trans women have built very thick skin and they've become jaded because it's like so many people are misgender on purpose. They do all these things on purpose. Specifically, for what reason, I don't know. Because they don't believe them, because they don't
should they
respect
be
that.
punished for that? Should they be removed from Twitter for that? That's what I don't think is right.
It's like, if you're purposely misgendering someone and you're being a dick, it goes into the area, it's just like when you're fucking racist. When you're just blatantly being racist to someone. It's harmful and it's hateful, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they should be removed either.
See, that's where we differentiate. I don't really care if they're removed or not unless it's like very much mentally affecting someone and they're not stopping. If they're not stopping and they're purposely misgendering, they're purposely following them on social media accounts and they're fucking harassing them, I think they should be removed because they're just harmful. This is where we go into the fact it's like there's not a problem until they're doing harm. People misgendering and people doing these things are causing harm. They're causing harm onto somebody else. And the thing about it is,
but
you cannot...
harm is subjective. That's my problem. Because anything could be harm. You saying, I don't know, think of something. Say you kept saying the color purple. And I said, you saying the color purple brings me physical harm. Or mental harm.
Yeah, it could be a trigger for you.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to say purple.
No. See, this is where it goes. If you're like Felicity, the color purple is bringing me, like, mental anguish. I'm getting triggered by this. This is something, like, I'm going to... If I give a fuck about you and, like, I care... Okay, here's two things. There's three scenarios.
Okay, time out. If I don't know you and we're exchanging on... Say we're both I don't really know how Twitter works. So if we're tweeting on the same thread...
Mm-hmm.
And I say something about purple, and then you comment below that and say, saying purple offends me, and then I say purple again.
Yeah, you're purposely being a cunt.
Yeah, but people can be assholes. That's part of life.
It sucks.
It sucks. I get that.
You
shouldn't be punished for that.
A lot of people, like, I don't know how Twitter works with removing
I love
people.
this. I feel like we're getting deep right now.
It's fine, but it's like, sir, like, for example, there are people on TikTok. I'm more prominent in the TikTok scene and how things work.
Good, because I know nothing. I've never been on TikTok.
I'm not on Twitter as much as I'm on TikTok. I'm on TikTok a lot. So I'm on TikTok, and the thing about it is it's like, how do I phrase this? They're being an asshole by saying the color purple again to purposely trigger you. And that is, but the thing is, you've expressed, you're like, this is causing me harm. So if someone's purposely coming back and they're purposely doing this thing to upset you, correct? They're being an asshole, yeah. Yeah. How they go about banning people for these things, it's like, I don't know how they go about Twitter when it comes to banning. Like, what does it take? I don't know if people get reported at some point.
Dead naming is enough. That's a big one. If you dead name once, you're done. Doesn't matter if it's intentional or by mistake. You're off the platform.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just not respecting someone's identity. And you could, like, the thing about it is it's like...
But is that enough of a reason?
To ban someone? I think you should have every right to block somebody. And
block somebody? That's great. You want to block everybody who you disagree with, do whatever you want. But removing somebody from the platform and restricting their speech, I think, is my problem.
Mm-hmm. It's...
Because of how they made you feel. Like, that's dicey. That can become...
It's not even like how they made you feel. They're just, like, blatantly ignoring who you are.
But that's a feeling. That's affecting your feelings.
Yeah, but they're gonna go and do that with a whole bunch of other people then too. And then you're looking at someone who's like causing massive amount of damage.
Okay, this is gonna be a better example. I've seen people, get removed from the platform for saying, "Do you want to?"
I'm like thinking about it, but I'm like, I don't know.
That's why this is there. We might be out of tequila. There's
disgusting.
Gin. There's vodka. I've got some. Shout out to Abe Stevens. We've got some hemp infused vodka.
I'm okay not getting high. So
no, there's no THC. It's just vodka. It's hemp flavored. Yeah.
That's weird. We'll go with Jameson. It's fine.
Okay, solid
But
choice.
anyways, it's
okay. Wait. I've got a good thing. You can get banned for expressing ideas. So if we were in Twitter, on Twitter,
yes,
and I said, I don't think that hypothetically, if someone said, I don't think that trans women are women, just expressing that idea or opening up that discussion, you can get banned for the idea.
Yeah, because they are women.
But who says? Who says they are and who says they're not?
Because they are women. They
But who
identify as
says?
women. I don't really know, but they're women. It's like that's.
But that's a subjective choice that you're making.
To not know. They're
Yeah.
not choosing to be a woman.
Because who says women are women?
Okay, now you're just getting weird and
No, but this
universal
is
with it,
where
but it's like
this is where it can go, and that's what my problem is.
because well, that's the thing. If you're looking on this like overall grand scheme of things, and you're like, yeah, who says women and women? Who says men are men? Like, because most people, unlike you, unfortunately, people don't think in this very broad sense,
Which is a problem.
Which is like you're looking at it from like a you're looking at it from like a philosophical viewpoint. You're like, who says what is what? Who says the number one means number one? Who means number five means number five? We've put quantitative things onto those numbers, for example. When we go back onto trans women and these things, you're looking at the mass majority of people, comparatively to you.
Okay, I've got a great point. What if I said, do you believe in God?
Me?
Yeah.
I believe in a God.
Okay, do you believe in Jesus?
No.
Okay, so if you said on Twitter, I don't believe in Jesus, and that offends me, should you be banned from TikTok?
No, because it's religious.
Okay, but what's the difference between that and sexuality? It's a thing. What if I
Sexuality isn't a choice.
But religion might not be a choice.
Religion is 100% like a thing you believe in. It is listen, when you go into, unless you're like brainwashed, you have the freedom to believe in what you believe in. That's what our whole shtick is about.
Okay, but believing that a trans woman is a woman is a belief of
That's
some
not a
sort.
belief, because a trans woman is a woman.
But you believe that.
That's not a belief. It is a thing.
Yeah,
that
but
a trans woman's a woman.
in order for you to make that connection, you have to believe it. If I say I am a man, I have to believe that I'm a man, right?
No, because you're a man.
But that's because we believe that. I feel like we're splitting hairs, but the point we're at the point. If you wanting me to behave,
that was rough.
Wanting me to fit, or somebody wanting someone else to fit in a box that they want them in is the problem.
I don't think it's too much to ask for women to just be like, hey, can you please call me by the correct pronouns and preferred name, please?
But why should someone have to change their speech patterns to make you feel better? That's the root cause of this.
How is it making them feel better? It's like the mutual amount of respect. I'm not going to be around calling you a her. You might not care, but other people are going to care.
True. But why should it matter? If someone is a guy, I'm a guy, and someone calls me a girl.
You think that's silly, but for someone who's come from a background where
But if they're truly a guy, it doesn't matter because they're a guy.
They do think it's silly. And I mean, like I said, a lot of trans women they'll just dismiss people who say stupid shit like that.
That's how it should be.
How many people are coming up to you calling you a girl, though?
That doesn't change anything.
No, it does. How many people are coming to you a girl? How many people have come up to you and been like...
If 1,000,000 people called me a girl, I'm still not a girl.
But you're looking at this massive amount of people who don't respect trans women for the fact they're women, and it's a large population. But how many people
don't respect Christianity? How many people don't respect Islam?
Nobody's going out fucking beating the fuck out of Christians. I don't think
Christians have been persecuted.
Very, very, very rarely do Christians get persecuted. People shit on Christianity now.
Well, throughout history, anybody in any religious sect has been persecuted. But this is the thing, is it's a feeling. I want you to call me these certain things, and if you don't, you get removed from the platform. That's my problem. I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying dead naming is a good thing or being an asshole is a good thing. But somebody saying something to you like that, words only have power if you give them power.
Okay, I don't think a lot of like African American folk want to feel people oppressing them by calling them the N-word or any of those things. I don't think anybody... So, like, you can allow someone to be a racist online if you want to. That's fucking harmful, though. It comes to the fact of when you discuss harm, and you're right, harm is a subjective thing, but in a world where we want to be progressive towards accepting people for who they are, being a very inclusive, and this is why
But life is harmful.
life is harmful, but that doesn't mean that we have to allow people to openly harm other people and be fucking racist to other people and misgender other people on purpose. It's like, why allow that? Why allow someone to purposely not even one. Typically it's a lot of people going out, a trans woman, and being like, you're not a imagine just having hundreds of voices just being like, you're not a woman. Like, when you're a woman, you are a woman. You are a woman inside, you're like, I'm a fucking lady. And the thing is, you don't owe it really to anybody to be like, I'm gonna go chop off my penis and have a vagina. Like, not everybody wants to do that. And
But nobody owes it to you to call you a woman. I don't have to call you a woman. Or like, I don't have to call my mom a woman or my sister a woman. I could call them. Nobody owes you anything,
it's
is the thing.
weird when you call them a man, though, when they're not a man, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't affect who they are.
It doesn't affect who they are, but you're going to be weird and you're going to be a piece of shit if you're going to be out here calling people the wrong gender.
Yeah, but I think people should be able to do that. I'm not justifying it, but in free speech, you have the ability to be a dick. If you want to be a dick.
People gotta be a piece of shit all they want.
And some are. Some are pieces of shit.
Yeah, and like, I think people who misgender on purpose and dead name people on purpose is really shitty. I think it's just when it's coming from groups of people who do cause harm on other groups of people that I think having censorship isn't bad. Cause it's
that scares me. Because censorship...
It's completely subjective when it comes to the idea. And I understand where you're coming from philosophically. Because it's like, oh, fuck, okay, who are we allowing? It's like, what the fuck did I talk to my partner about the other day? We talked about something where he's like, okay, if you have the complete ability to just kill somebody, for example, and just, like, what the fuck did he say to me? He's like, if you have the opportunity just to kill somebody, and you think that they're a bad person, what makes you think that you have the right to do that? And I'm like... He's like, what makes you so all-knowing that you think that you could just do that? You're not. You're not God. You're not anything. So you're putting people in a position of power to take away freedom of speech and things like that. Do we have to wrap it up?
No.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I was trying to find something, but I don't think I can find it.
Oh, that's fine. But yeah,
no, I'm still listening. Continue your story.
Yeah, no. And it's like, it's uncomfortable to have a level of trust in a large platform to give trust to people who they deem to be harmful onto other groups of people or onto people. And that is very uncomfortable. You know, I don't like the government. I don't know if you like the government, but I'm not a fan.
I don't trust them.
No, I think it's very whack. I'm not a fan of the government. Did I get vaccinated? Yeah, but I'm like... The government's a whack fucking group of people, of typically old white people. And I'm like, it's kind of strange to me. There's not a lot of diversity and they're all hella old. Which I think we all can kind of agree that people who are usually from the older generations can sometimes not be as open-minded as, like, conversations that you and I are having right now, or people, like, I have conversations with other people, Like Alexandria Cortez, I think, is a very open-minded and someone I wish had more position of power.
She scares the fuck out of me.
Why? I fucking love her. She can step on me if she wants, but like, I don't mind. But like,
but back to the topic of the censorship.
Yeah, for someone who doesn't like that idea, someone who doesn't think that people should have that type of power. That's just where our opinions are going to differentiate. Because I am willing, depending, to trust. Because there's going to be times for me where very far right people, like, because I'm a pretty, like, between middle to left. That's just, like, where my political things kind of stand. Where very far right people are going to say shit and pop off. And I'm like, even though I don't agree with it, I'm like... They're going to exist. And there may be times where I see some far leftist shit or someone else says far leftist shit. And there are platforms and spaces where, like, very liberal type of opinions, that's not really appreciated because it is a space where people of, like, a far right-winged idea are to exist, so they get censored. There's going to be places where people are going to get censored, and that's just, with the political, that's a different conversation. But, like, I am willing to trust in someone to make at least a smart call when it comes to stopping people who are purposely and emotionally just trying to make people upset about something that they have no control over.
But in the case of sparking the conversation, saying, okay, are trans women women? Like, you can't even have that conversation because somebody could say, this is damaging to me. Like, this, even the conversation of, oh, are they or aren't they? That's damaging. So now we can't even have the discussion. That's a problem.
But it's not a discussion. They are women.
But
There shouldn't be a conversation over the fact that they're women.
But it is a discussion. Unfortunately, it is a discussion.
Anything can be a discussion, but
Exactly.
it's like, but for this, it's people. You can't argue that.
But you can't. You can argue anything.
You can argue
and you
anything.
should be able to argue anything.
But you're playing this role of devil's advocate in a place where it's not wanted or needed.
But the problem is, a portion of people don't want it, and a portion of people do want it. And yet the portion that doesn't want it has the power. That's why I'm playing devil's advocate, because it's the portion that doesn't want it that is censoring on Twitter right now. And that's a problem. Not necessarily because of what they're doing, though I think it's wrong, but powers like this only get extrapolated on. So today it's on the good side, right? We're fighting fascists, we're fighting people that are causing harm.
Mm-hmm.
But tomorrow it could be on the opposite side. People don't like to understand that, like, if Twitter was around when MLK was alive, he would have been banned from Twitter for sparking these protests, for doing these things, for coming out with these ideas. People don't understand that these powers, this censorship, would have been used against him back then. So yeah, they're on the right side, quote unquote, today. Tomorrow they might be on the wrong side. Maybe they're suppressing, protests like with BLM or doing something crazy like that. And it's like, well, we laid the foundation today because we put feelings above the ability to just have the discussion. That's what I will fight for. We should be, I don't care if I agree with you, if I think you're full of shit, if I, don't think you're on the up and up with your moral code, whatever, you should be able to voice your opinions, because steel sharpens steel. So if you have a bad idea and I come at it with a better idea, there's a better chance of you changing your idea than if I just shut your ass down and say you don't get to speak anymore. Because now you're going to go into your wormhole and you're going to reinforce your ideas and reinforce your beliefs, and you're going to be that much more fired up to do something. So whereas if we had a discussion about it, maybe that would change.
You think that there should be a platform and a forum where they should be allowed to have an open conversation about it?
I don't think anybody should be punished for the words that they say.
I definitely am always going to differentiate from you from that, because there's
I get it. It's a hard idea for people to grasp.
It is a hard idea only because it's like, I've seen the suffrage that comes from the words. Unfortunately, the like, sticks and bones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Unfortunately, words fucking hurt you mentally. And it fucks you up, and it's not good, and that's...
You know what hurts more than words, though? Like a stick or a rock.
I feel like words are definitely like a stick or a brick, but that's
I guarantee if I hit you with a brick, you would say that words are a lot less painful.
Yeah, and trans women get hit by bricks.
I guarantee they would say words are a lot less painful.
Well, then you're just on a competition of like, physically I'm in a terrible place, but like when you have a bunch of people misgendering me.
Have you ever heard the quote that, prepare the child for the road, not the road for the child?
Well, yeah, we talked something similar about that earlier, talking about financial preparation of
youth. It's kind of along. I think we have a serious problem today where people's feelings are so valued. You're really enjoying that,
No.
Where people's feelings are valued above all else, and I worry about where that takes us as a country.
That is a fair thing.
That's what scares the shit out of me.
That's fair, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think feelings that are not some feelings that are reactions to certain things is valid about things that people choose. And I'm going to tell you that because the freedom of choice is fine, but sometimes the things that people can choose comparatively to when we look at the trans conversation, with the trans women, they're women. They don't get to choose that. They're just women. And unfortunately, you could look on it from a broad philosophical state, but let's look at it as a simple version. It's just a woman.
But there are people that would argue that trans women are not women. there are people that would argue that.
On
I
a
think
what argument would they present me though?
that they have a penis,
Okay,
that they were born as a male.
there's a difference between gender and your sex. Their sex is male. Their gender has nothing to do with their genitalia. I don't know if that was ever explained, but sex and gender are separate. They are separate. Gender
Okay.
identity and gender is what you identify as.
So then a trans woman would sexually be a male.
Their sex is still male unless changed, but they...
I mean, you could make argument. Like, if I cut off my penis right now, I'm not instantly a woman.
No, you just chopped your penis
Yeah.
off.
But that's 99% of what that surgery is.
That is not 99%.
Well, yeah, they cut off your penis and
No,
they invert
dog.
it.
They cut it open and invert it, but
Okay.
they're not chopping your
Yeah,
cock
they're
off.
not
Like,
chopping
that's
it.
not
No.
what that is.
But they're cutting it and inverting it.
Yes. You still pretty much have your penis. It's like, it's just inverted because it's...
So if you have I mean, these are all things, right? I'm not saying I particularly believe this or that I particularly don't. I'm not making any statements, but I think that the argument can be made. And so if the argument can be made, then it's not black and white.
It's not black and white. Nothing's ever black and
No,
white.
so then you should be able to discuss it without people saying, "Oh, I feel like this is hurting me, so now we can't have the discussion."
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I think at the heart of all this, that's my problem, is people shutting down conversations based on how they feel, because feelings change.
Well, it's like, how many times have people had conversations about, trans women being women, and then people just don't. They're just like, but the thing about it is, like, they don't, but people leave their families when they're misgendered, and they're just like, I'm a woman, and they're like, you're still my son. It's like, what? I'm not your son, though. I'm your daughter. And it's like, and people leave those situations. They don't talk to their family. They don't have connections with them anymore because of those type of things. And it's like, how many conversations do you have to have, though, where it's like, you've tried to convince people, but why do you have to argue something that you don't even get to choose? It's like,
But why do they have to believe you?
But it's not really a belief, it's just fact. It is what it is.
I think that's the impasse we're hitting, is you think of this as something that is absolute, and I think of this as something that could be argued.
Yeah, but I mean, that's fine if you think it's something that can be argued, but a woman's identity or a man's identity, it shouldn't, the thing to me is, it shouldn't have to be argued. It's
But
like,
if I say I'm a bird, that doesn't make me a bird.
do you feel like you're a bird?
I could. And if
No,
I jump...
No, it's not a could. You do or you don't. Do you feel like a bird?
If I did,
If you
that
did,
doesn't change anything.
yeah, but if I'm like, all right, Nick's a bird, I'm like...
Yeah, but you shouldn't have to. I think that's the thing, is like, people have these internal feelings. So say you identify as a woman. Whatever somebody else says about you, it's irrelevant. Whatever somebody could believe that I could believe you're a bottle of Jameson. That doesn't make you that thing. And people, for some reason, don't seem to get that, and they want people to believe they are what they say they are. But that's not life.
Because for some reason, I mean, you're looking at it. I was gonna hit a historical gas pedal.
Oh shit!
It's like, you're looking. That is, I mean, people shouldn't care, and it's true. And obviously, people aren't being hanged, in our country, anyways. In other countries, you are. If you're trans, you die. So
Yeah, that's
that.
not cool.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like,
but there's a difference between that and Twitter.
There is a difference between that and Twitter.
Yeah.
But it's just because people don't... It's like, how do I phrase this? So it's like, if you want to look at like someone who's gay, and we look where we've came with that, we see a lot of violence towards these group of people. It's like, emotional violence is still a thing. And of course you can't filter someone from saying what they think, and they're going to think what they think at the end of the day. And I can understand where people want just to be censored, because it's like, you come from this long line of history where specifically trans women and black trans women, it's like, look at Marsha P. Daly, I believe, the riot wall woman, the woman who, the face of like gay rights movement, murdered in New York, I believe. I don't remember specifically. My facts are not the greatest. But she was murdered and was left in public. But the thing is, it's like her and hundreds upon hundreds of other people that because these people don't, for some reason, because these people don't view trans women as women, and because they keep saying they're women, for some reason causes people to, not everybody obviously, but causes people to act upon it. Because you're not part of the LGBTQI and like that, like maybe you don't hear about the things as much as I do, but it's like you read, you hear, you learn.
Oh, I know it's not good. Yeah, there's a ton
No.
of prejudice.
And it's like,
but what does that have to do with the conversation?
It has to do with the conversation because some people, because they can't just openly go out and fucking murder somebody, it's like some people just have ill intent too. That's what I'm saying. You can have an open conversation, and if you're willing to engage in an open conversation, like right now, how we're talking about it, it's fine. But there could be a point where you specifically, it's like, you, for example, not specifically, if you were just like, you just get so frustrated with our conversation. Like, you do not view me as gender fluid if you're like, no, Felicity, you're a woman. Like, that's that. And I'm like, no, I'm gender fluid. And we just had this whole conversation. I'm trying to explain it to you. And you just were like, some of it's like, some people do it for different reasons. Some people view it as a religious thing. And they're like, this is a sin of God. You have to die. And that blows my mind every time. I'm just
That's
like,
a problem. That's not what I'm trying to extrapolate
but that's
towards.
the things that come sometimes out of these people engaging. Sometimes. But how the sometimes, unfortunately, is more often than the not sometimes.
That's not true.
It's more frequent than you would think.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not like a whole.
I would argue it's not the majority.
99.9% of the time. But the thing, it's more than it should be.
Okay, but what about this? Let me paint you a scenario. What if
I have to piss.
trans people... I know, we gotta wrap this up. I told Dustin I'd go grab a beer with him. What if... Let me end on this. What if we took out the danger element? So no trans people are ever going to be hurt again. But there are some people that believe trans women are women, and there are some people that believe trans women aren't women. Would that be okay? Would they be allowed to say, oh, trans women aren't women? No threat of danger, no threat of violence. Nobody's ever going to get hurt again. Everybody is a pacifist. But there are people that just say trans women are not women, and others say trans women are women. Would that be acceptable? Would people be allowed to have those beliefs if we remove the threat of violence for good?
I don't know. I'm not a trans woman. I can't answer for that, if that would be good enough for
Would it be good if they, okay, changing it to say gender fluid isn't real? Or gender fluid is real. If there were those two camps, no violence.
For me, if someone was like, gender fluid isn't a thing, like you're a woman, I'd be like, okay, I just wouldn't associate with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's like...
That's how it should be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, if someone's coming at me constantly on social media,
block their ass.
On everyone, how do you block 100 people, though? Like, holy fuckamole. Like, that becomes overwhelming when so many people are like, dude, gender fluidity isn't a thing. Like...
Yeah, but that's life. I mean,
that's the joys of having a bunch of fucking, well, not even 100. Yeah. I'm just saying with like social media, especially if you're well known or you're popular, like, you're going to have a fuck ton of people.
Yeah.
That's where you got to build the tough skin for it. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like, I still haven't came out to like my parents about it, my family about it. And it's like, I'm not too concerned about it. Like, I really, really feel like my father will not be that shocked. But like my mom, for example, I think she'll probably just be like, pretty accepting of everything. My grandpa will not fucking understand, so I'm not even gonna try. And that's why I'm like, it doesn't really bother me too much. My friends support me, my partner. And
it seems like you have a thicker skin.
Oh yeah. No, 200%,
That's how I am. Like, what you say will never affect me because, first off, you're never gonna be a harsher critic than I am of myself. And second off, your opinion doesn't affect me. Like, I think people need to not hurt each other, not hurt other people, that's first, but have a thicker skin too and acknowledge that you are what you believe yourself to be, not what somebody else tells you you are.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's fair when someone's like, if someone's just like, they're expressing something they did that day and they're a trans woman and they're just like, yeah, I went to the mall and I I did this and this, and I bought a dress and heels. You know, I'm really excited to go to the club tonight. And they're just posting a fucking random Twitter. And then someone's just like, you're not a woman. Why are you wearing a dress? Like, is that excessive to you? Like, is that unnecessary commentary?
Absolutely. Do I think they should be banned for that? No. Do I think they're a dick? Yeah. Why say that? Do I think people that comment under people's pictures and say, "Oh, you're ugly," or "Oh, you're this or that," do I think they're dicks? Yeah. Do I think they shouldn't do that? Yeah. Should they be banned? No. But I am like religiously adamant for free speech just because I think like I'm trying to talk with like this. Like that's all this is. And in a weird way, like you can't have discussions like this outside of this platform. And I worry that the way society is going, even the podcasting space is going to get cut. Like I had a video pulled off of YouTube just for what people were saying.
What happened?
Well, it was with Amy Gunderson. Shout out to her, she's awesome, and her brother Ben Gill, and they were talking about the election, saying that there was fraud that was going to show that Trump was actually victorious. Which, regardless of how you feel about that, you might think it's crazy, you might think it's totally plausible. It's just words. It's just somebody expressing their idea, and YouTube pulled the video. Like, all right, you can't have this on here, and that's. Like I see that getting worse and that scares me. And that's why like I'm trying to have this conversation because I honestly wanted to see what you thought. And I'm trying to work through these ideas.
That's where you go back into like at what point we can like sum it up in here in a couple minutes. It's like I gotta go.
I know we gotta wrap this. It's already like we've been doing this for 4 hours.
4 hours.
4
Bitch,
hours.
I can talk for hours. It's like ridiculous.
We'll definitely have to bring you back on it. We'll do like
I'll
get some more
tequila.
Yeah, I'll get more tequila now. Apparently,
tequila and you want a co-host? There you go.
Hey.
But I'm down. But like, just tell me like 2 weeks in advance.
Yes, I know. My texting, my responses are so bad. That's why I was like, when you were the same way, I was like,
I literally was laying in bed. I'm like, fuck, I should text Nick back. That'll do his podcast. And I'm like, how long has it been? And I looked and I'm like, oh, it's been like 2-3 months. So I was like, holy shit. But I'm like, it's fine. But like, yeah, no. One thing that fucks me up is it's like the only problem I have with like people saying things is if it's related to a group who causes violence. Like,
the violence aspect is what you struggle with. Because it's perpetrated.
Always have issues with the violence. And that's why I'm like, that's why with history, I'm like, I'm not going to be okay with someone who's
I get it.
Trans women aren't women. Because the people who say those things, the people who project those things are people who go out and kill trans women. So I'm like, or hurt trans women. Like, for example, what the fuck did I see the other day? I was like, watching TikTok, and it was like, for example, people want to express and have a gay pride flag, and they were in their cafeteria, they were eating lunch, completely separate from this person, and like, some person came up and just fucking, like, mollywopped this dude upside the head, ripped off his trans flag, and put it in the trash can, and I was like, what? For why? Like, for what? But the thing is, we have that specific event, but then you have a group of people who have similar ideologies, viewpoints, that are like, trans women are women, and say things like that. So it's like, when people say that, it can definitely be unnerving when this is the pattern that we've seen. So, because like I said, I'm not saying that like, oh, people who say that are fucking go out and fucking stab or kill or trans women or anything like that, but I'm like, the pattern makes it uncomfortable when people say these things. And, you know, when they follow you on social media, so I'm talking about going back to, like, you know, my situation where I was like, you know, someone fucking found my Muggle account on my sex work. People kill sex workers. People don't like that. People are like, you shouldn't exist. You're a sin. Or you're whatever belief that is fueling this need to cause violence, you know.
But it does go both ways. I've seen a lot of videos of people beat the fuck out of MAGA supporters. Beat the fuck out of them. For like no reason. They're just walking down the street with the hat on and get jumped. And it's ugly.
It's like, I don't condone the violence in those type of things. I don't. And this is where we're gonna actually meet eye to eye.
The violence is just, there's no reason for it.
It's not necessary. But I'm like, it's unfortunate with MAGA for people who have been oppressed by the Trump administration when that thing kind of happened. Like, you know, the gay community. He tried to undermine the gay marriage law. Like, that was something that he did. And, you know, I tried to really filter out the Trump administration because a lot after that, I was like, I will get too stressed out and too emotionally distraught to really focus on a lot of things. And then there was like,
I hate to do this. We gotta wrap this up, Felicity.
No,
We're gonna be
we
here-
can wrap it up
We're
right
gonna
now.
be here
It's
talking
fine.
all night.
It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I really gotta pee. So,
Do you
like,
have anything you want to plug? Any,
you can
social
follow
media?
me on stream at Ultramilks. Please correct me on anything I might have incorrectly, like, cited or anything. You can message me on Felix Flex or Felicity Mindus. I don't care. Or my Instagram handle. I don't remember what the Instagram was. One second. Let me look it up. Let me look at it. Oh, I don't remember what it was. My phone is so slow. It's so bad. Yeah, please correct me or correct any terminology or whatever the fuck I might have accidentally said. I will be held accountable. That's fine. oflex_Felix. You can find me on there. That's what I'm most active on, is right there. Just like someone's post where I'm like trying to fucking like, what's it called? But like, yeah, those are my places I'm like most common. And yeah, you can follow me on there. You know, if you ever want me back to just kind of help co-host and guide.
Hell yeah.
Very different.
We're gonna go back in.
So,
okay.
But yeah, this has been a 4-hour fucking podcast.
I know.
I came over here, I'm like, it's gonna be an hour and we'll go home, we'll stream. I'm like, I'm going home pissing and going to bed. So
okay. Well, Felicity, thank you I had a great time. That was a hell of a lot of fun.
That was a lot of conversating.
Yeah.
So that
4
was
4 hours
of conversation.
We put in some work.
We talked about OnlyFans. We talked about trans women being women, which they are women. And
we covered all the bases.
A lot of different shit. So, yeah, no, please, if there's anything on there that wasn't, like, did not say, or things I cited incorrectly, or things that need to be corrected, please, so the next time I have this conversation with Nick or anybody, I would like to say it correctly and talk about it accurately. So that you can always, there's room to learn for everything. So, yeah, but alright.
There you go.
Cool.
Alright, thanks, guys.